as we proceed to give you what you need. Oh no, I still got the sticker on there. Fuck it, it's my sticker. The beautiful shadow. The beautiful dark space that is a shadow. The beautiful dark space in understanding yourself. The beauty in being integrated. In order to become integrated, one must become separated first from their old self. Everything that we've ever looked at needs a reevaluation. I'm learning more and more just how important reevaluating and reassessing is, doing the reassessments, and really removing the aspects of understanding what's bothering me, not as in what's being said, not what's being done, but rather what is bothering me at this particular time. I had a big problem with this. A lot of us have a big problem with this. And we're looking at what's being done. We're looking at what's being said. And that's a part of the passive approach. That passive action, that passive aggression, that being mildly aggressive or being in this aspect of being in that passive approach. And the only time that we become active, we think that we're becoming active, it's still in a passive space because we're acting out in a passive manner. Protest, march. Let's argue about this happening. Let's argue about this coming to the table. As long as we remain in that passive state, we never take responsibility. We never take accountability for ourselves. We allow ourselves to stay within the guilts, the shames. We allow ourselves to tell ourselves these bedtime stories. What are you telling yourself before you go to bed? We don't learn how to transmute the energy through a higher space of our, take it to a higher level. We stay stuck in this deception or this illusion, the delusions of grandeur themselves. Hiding, whether we hiding in the light based on shame, or we hide from the light in shame and we hide in the dark in shame. Either way, you're still hiding, you're still transmuted through shame. The point of your shadow work. Why it's so important to do your shadow work. Your shadow work's that soul work. You upset about not understanding to yourself. Well, take this thought. You can get upset and now you can build the conspiracy theory. We're all, this the ship, you can go by maritime law, whatever it is. Just like anything else is meant to make you learn, the conspiracy theory that's brought to the surface that makes you feel good is actually the contradiction to understanding and getting into that space of that polarity, why something bothered you. The conspiracy becomes that detachment or that distraction that you need in your life. You're upset. Right now, motherfuckers are still mad about vaccines and masks. Why is it bothering you? It didn't bother you when you ain't got all those vaccination, Hep B's, TB shots when you were little. So what is it now? You're mad about wearing masks, but why are you really upset about wearing a mask? It's a little bit deeper. That identity that you're trying to hold on to is going to have to wear that mask. You've been wearing the mask anyway. They just gave it to you right there in your face. Go watch the Charles Manson interviews when he talked about the reason I know I'm in jail now. The only difference between me in here and me out there is in here I know I'm in jail. When I wake up, I see the prison that I'm in. I can see the prison that I'm in. Until you understand and actually start applying it, it really don't matter. That story that you keep telling yourself. You're doing, ooh, I got the deity. I'm working with deities. I'm working with the deities. Okay, you're working with the deities. Have you understood that there's multiple different versions of the deities for a reason? There's multiple different principles. There's multi-facets to the principles of all the deities that you're dealing with for a reason. Have you learned to take those deities that you are so attracted to? Do you even know why you're attracted to them? Do you even know why you're attracted to that deity? Motherfuckers are like, yeah, I'm a sex demon. I'm attracted to that Pan tribe in the dark side. But the real reason that you may be attracted on that shadow level to yourself of understanding that deity is because your pops and your mother was out there getting it on. Your mother was a Rolling Stone. Pops was a Rolling Stone. That's why you attract. That's that energy coming through that space. But you can't see it that way. So you're giving an example of what it would look like in a human in the lower level aspects. Anything in that lower level gets caught up in shame, guilt, grief, and you get stuck in that polarity with yourself of that grandeur. Everything that you build, you're building based off that conversation of the energy that you're flowing with. So if I'm sitting in a space with myself, use an example, if I was building something based on fear, that means I was getting money based on fear, the fear of not having a place to stay, the fear of not having a job, the fear of not having a place to stay, not having a place to sit down, not having no food to eat, and then I got the money, then naturally, when the cycle resets, guess what? I got to go back to feeling that way. My first original thought. I got to have the doubt to stay there. So the longer that I stay in that position, the more things fill that space to keep me in doubt. The more things inside of that space keep me getting triggered in that space. If I'm putting shit off, if I'm in that energy of my procrastination with myself, now everything in my space is going to give me a reason to procrastinate. And it's going to be positive and negative based on where your focus and your discipline's at. It's always going to give you your answer. What's the real, why is it really bothering you? Why is it really upsetting you? Why is it really getting to you? Why is it really there? Are you really mad at the white man, or is it because you got dad issues? Are you really mad at white women, or because you got mom issues? Or inner tandem? Do you really have a problem with submission? Or is it based on, or do you really have a problem with submitting? Or the only example you had of somebody submitting or bowing down to somebody was your mother getting knocked upside the head? These are the things that you got to have that we got to start having those conversations about. All the other stuff, you can go grab all the books and all the information. But if you can't write that, if you can't use that information to rewrite the story that you're talking to your inner child about, then you're going to be stuck in the same space. One of the biggest and greatest examples I was thinking about as I was getting ready, just thinking about throughout the day, I was like, when I finally found out what Lucifer meant, the light bearer, Uriel, and I understood the origins of it. I remember the first time really doing that meditation and having that conversation with my inner child. And I remember I went back to age 10, where he was sitting there in that space. And we were having that, he had that was said to him. And I remember pulling him, like we had that, sat him down in that space, and I explained what it meant. The more information that I had, the more I was applying it to these aspects of why that was happening. That opened up like once I went and had that conversation with my inner child, with little Carlos, when I had that conversation with him, when I went further ahead and I just kept more stuff opened up. The shame, the doubt, the fears, these things open up. A lot of the times we don't understand that the shame that you feel comes from somewhere. The guilt that you feel comes from somewhere. Ashe, ashe. The doubt that you feel comes from somewhere. The shame that you feel comes from somewhere. So when you really start doing this soul work, the reason that it gets so heavy is because you're acknowledging the entire line. You're acknowledging Your karmic mothers, you're acknowledging the entire ancestral line of shame. That's why you got all those mixed feelings when you're thinking about being in shame. But then you can get distracted because you're still thinking about, you're going from the space of expectancy based on revenge. I have no reason, at a point you're going to get to where I have no reason to want revenge. I ain't got no reason to want to have revenge with anybody, on anybody, get at anybody, knock anybody head. I don't have no reason to really do any of those things because it's not serving me a purpose. They ain't like, I remember saying that back in the day. Like my uncle was like, there's no use to going to fight anybody. They ain't got no money. What's the use to fucking fighting with them? If they ain't got no money, what the fuck is the use to fighting with them? My uncle said that shit to us all the fucking time. Like, they ain't got no money. What's the point to fight with them? Unless you about to get a couple thousand out of them, what's the use to go fight them? You're just wasting your energy. And that shit set with me. I was like, that makes sense. Like, what? Like, I'm not going to war with none. These motherfuckers. If you really understood and started applying the aptitude to your power, you would not waste your time transmuting into the pettiness of the human aspect. There's no reason for you to be sitting here mad that they shot somebody in the head and they killed another person. Bobby Hemmings said that a long time ago during a radio interview. He was like, nigga, they leaving, they transitioning, they gone. You just don't understand what death is. That's one of those big, if you don't know what death is, of course you're gonna think it's something. You're still you read all those books talking about death. You done read the Kabbalah, you done read all this information. You know what death is, but it still hurts. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to grieve, but you're supposed to transmute that energy. Grievance is going to be that gateway to transmute that energy. Any high emotional state is teaching you how to transmute energy. After you learn how to transmute energy, after you learn the basics of transmuting energy through that pain, you've already done it. That's why you like pain. That's why you go through the painful. That's why you like pain so much. That's why you think about those beating somebody upside the head. That's why you think about wanting to fight somebody, because you enjoy pain. But you got locked into the thought process of only transmuting through pain. You got locked into that, I'm only going to transmute through pain. You got locked in that aspect. You lost that aspect in your life. And now you're sitting, I'm never going to do this ever again. So now you're wondering why inside of your space, the conversation that you had with yourself to fill your illusion is now everybody around you ain't got no emotional aptitude. Everybody around you ain't got no emotional literacy. Everybody don't understand what you're saying. Why do you still stay? Why does it bother you? Why does it bother you that they're not getting the? Why does it bother you that they're not understanding it? Why does it bother you? Fuck what's being said. Fuck how they feel. Why does it bother you? One of the biggest things that I thought about, that I've built in, and I was thinking about the narrative of the shame, the story of shame, and how we, like, for most people that are stuck within the Christian and whatever religious based, the lower level frequencies based on emotion, the catalyst of shadows of emotion, it's always the same story. Even though it might be different acting, it's always the same story. And if you don't deal with that aspect, remember, I've talked about it before, it's your unseen that creates your space. And if you're not dealing with it, it keeps coming with you. It's going to keep coming with you on your mind is going to keep repeat. Your false mind still has life. Even if you sit there doing magic, you got your altars up, you got your magic popping off. You need an external conduit for that magic to work. As much as a lot of us don't really understand that, until I fully integrated with my shadow, I really felt like I didn't understand the mental conduits that I needed outside of me to keep me doing a certain aspect. If I was still operating within fear and I wanted to manifest money, whatever it was, the earlier stages of my works before really understanding what shadow work was, I realized that everything that was in my space, those were the conduits that stayed burning. I noticed a lot of times when I was manifesting money and I got the new car or I got the new place and I was getting all this new shit, I noticed that I was so susceptible to people being around me being mad because I was balling out of control, that I was on top of some shit. Those were the candles. Those were the flames. Those are the candles. Those are the flames. They were my inspiration. They were the reflections of my inspiration of the internal conflict with myself. Because the moment that I fell back off, oh yeah, it was easy to blame. See, this is why I don't be helping people and I don't like people around me, because every time that I need some help, there ain't no one gonna try to help me. But in reality, that's not what they were set there for. Why does it bother me? I gave myself a nice, lovely little illusion. It kept repeating the same steps, kept going through those same phases, getting into the consciousness aspect. Understand, I'm conscious, I know this information, I can read this, I know this, I can regurgitate this, keeping that, but I wasn't applying it to the true mechanics of myself. There's so many formulas. Here's one key that we're going to build into. The reason when you meet people, the reason why people are around you is not because of what you see on the surface or what they say. It's based on the frequency or the points of things that have not been assessed based on you. Remember that unseen builds your space. So 90% of the time, the shit that you have not dealt with is what brings these people into your space. I love it. I love it. I love it. Gnostic and metaphysics are two of the major keys. Gnostic and metaphysics are two of the major keys to understand the putrid aspects down here, the stuff that you're going away from. The monster. This is monstrous to you after you get to a point when you're no longer needed. You can make anything look beautiful as long as you need it. Through Gnosticism, it teaches you, like, if I don't need it, then it's still there, but it's a putrid effect that I no longer need. That's not something I no longer need. Going through the aspects of the metaphysic aspect is just teaching me my formulas of the formula. Two major keys in getting it. Two major keys that apply to your shadow work. You sitting there in that space with yourself, that mentality, the way that you're moving, the way that you want to speak, the way that you're living with yourself. And you keep telling yourself this story. And you keep telling yourself this story. And you keep telling yourself this story. The story almost becomes cult-like. The groups that you're growing are just becoming cult-like because it's based on the behavior of that hive mind mentality. You start regurgitating more. You start getting stuck in that cult-like mentality. You start doing things only based on because, black people do this, white people do this, Asian people do this. If all these motherfuckers are derivatives of my energy anyway, they were all based upon my blueprint. I'm carbon, they're carbon based. Then that means the only way that they are in activation are based on behavior. So after that point, you're like, why am I really upset with it? Why does it really bother me? Why does this really upset me? Why is this really getting to me? You really start asking that question, the why. Then getting into that, asking that true question of that why. Why does it bother you? What is it still there? What is still under there? Yes. Yes. You're shifting. You're the You're the Mandela effect. One thing that we have to also start doing, when you start really doing your internal work, when you really start doing this internal work, doing your soul's work, working on your soul, you start to realize that everything down here is powered by your emotions. The only way that it can be brought into existence is based on your emotions. So if you're thinking about shit that makes you angry, something as simple as the rain makes you mad. 1,000 niggas think the rain makes them mad, then of course somebody can create the illusion that's make it rainy over there. Let's make niggas don't like rain, niggas can't swim. Little simple shit. You getting upset because they taking the history out of, you already said, somebody, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and they were like, how do you feel about them taking Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and the Black history out of history books? I was like, I don't. I have all of the books. So nieces, nephews, neighbors' kids, they want to get that information, they can come get it from a reliable source. But they need it. Why does it bother you? Mm-hmm. Let me give you a thought. Every time that I've heard, and one of the things that never sat right with me when I was like the wee, before I did my birthing parts, I looked and I thought with myself, and I was looking at having the conversation. I was like, it's always the same emotional cue in the conversation. We've talked about emotional cues. Our kids need to learn our history. Our kids need to learn our struggle. Our kids need to learn our pain. And then it hit me one day. I was like, do they really need to learn the story from that perspective in that space, knowing it's going to, if everything else they're going to do is plagiarize and twist it up anyway? That's what they did with the Harriet Tubman movie, gave you all the movies, which gave you the aspect that they really create this bitch. But you're looking in that space with yourself. Are you saying that they need to learn the history of the struggle of why you're mad? Because the secret reason that why you're mad can be deflected behind what they learned, so they now have the same assumption program that you have? Really think about that shit when you put that thought into your mindset. If you were really serious and you were not taking the passive approach, and you really meant you were really active you were really active with yourself and saying that my kids are going to learn these aspects, and you were truly active, and you were truly active in yourself, truly active in your thoughts, and you're really, ain't nothing going to stop me from teaching and keep taking care of my kids, that's what's going to trigger you. That's what's going to challenge you. Congratulations, you got your challenge. You spoke it into existence. You said you want to give your children a life they never had, and now you're getting every opportunity in every stream to give your kids the life you never had. But first, you got to understand the life you never had, the life that you always wanted, the life that you always desired and wanted, and you longing for, that you want to give to your child. You got to understand that aspect about yourself first. Your child is the reflection of your inner child. That's one of their many purposes and lessons. But you can't approach them with emotional. It's like, take to the thought process like this. Are you really upset at some of the things that you're upset with? You really mad about some shit. You're really mad about prison systems. But if you understand that if you go read Gnostic texts and you understand you're in a prison by your emotions, i.e. your behaviors, your emotions lock you into prison anyway, until I address that jail is the byproduct. That's the physical byproduct of me already being locked up. I kept making the decision. I made the decisions. I followed the streams into that space anyway. That's only a refractive point of putting me in that space. Does it really matter? It's like going to the aspect passive thought. It's passive thought. These are the emotional traps. How many motherfuckers are you telling free my nigga, but how many times you trying to tell your dude he got to stay out of jail? You saying that it's horrible how your homegirl got knocked upside the head. It's horrible how your girl got knocked upside the head. She just like a type of nigga But you don't understand the reason that she's inside of your space and you can't fathom that happening to you is because every time because your unseen is being programmed into your space. Your homegirl got knocked upside the head. You didn't got knocked upside the head a couple times. Every time you looking at your homegirl get knocked upside the head, it comes from a point of the unseen in a memory. The way you reacting in a memory. So you're reacting to your own memory. You couldn't stop your dad from knocking your mom upside the head when you were little. So now you're trying everything in your power to stop that nigga from knocking her upside the head right there. But the only true way to stop that is to address first with you what you got to apologize to yourself that they had their traumas, they had their problems, their issues. That way you can go into that conversation and actively have a true conversation. Girl, why you keep going over there? You can have a true active conversation and not feel bad about it after you had the conversation. You got stuck in that emotional trap. She been through a hard life. You been through a hard life. Y'all been through some hard times. She was there for you. She was there for you when your nigga went upside your head. Y'all bonded based on trauma, switching it back and forth, keeping that polarity living. So now you can keep your coping and your escaping. Girl, we just need to get away. Yo, fam, we just need to get away. These bitches ain't shit. You get stuck within that paradigm of that program, keep building your space based on trauma. Keep trying to build your shit on the lower frequency, and guess what? It never really works. Because you trying to build you're trying to bypass and use the byproduct to make yourself happy. You're trying to use the byproduct to make yourself, but it's a byproduct. It's an illusion. If it's an illusion, that means it only exists by the emotions that are put into that projection. So if I'm thinking about why I'm not making any money, and what's my original thought? Why does it bother me I'm not making any money? Simple shit that you start thinking about with yourself as you start wanting to move forward. Why can I seem to become it? Why can I not be, oh wait, I'm not emotionally invested because at a point in time I shut off my emotions. Nobody matches this frequency. Everything in your space is pushing you forward on purpose. You are not supposed to stay the fucking same. You ain't supposed to be sitting here day after day living out the same damn life every fucking time. You don't want to deal with insecurities. You don't want to deal with the pains. So you keep doing the same circle. You live this. It's only one day. You just keep repeating that same one day. Your goal is to be able to sacrifice something every single day. Therefore, you learn. Therefore, when you go to bed, in this bedtime technique, one of the techniques that I developed and I learned, I was mastering, I've been developing and I've been working with, it's a great technique, it's the bedtime story. It's the bedtime story. Opening up your space to your inner child. You ain't got to use shrooms. You can. That's a part of it. You can use those aspects. But like, it's simply telling your inner child a bedtime story. Some shit that you learned while programming the questions into the bedtime story. Telling yourself this story before you go to bed. To allow yourself to become open to when you program the space. A lot of us like to get, I can astral travel, I can remote view. All right, are you using it to its maximum potential? It's cool that you can remote view. It's cool that you can astral project. It's cool that you can do all of these things, but are you taking them to their highest level? Because those are the things that go to the highest level. As long as you down here, you can't go any higher until you release. But it'll do you no good if you have not trained those aspects. So when you release, you actually can be fully online. It does you no good that you can astral project and you have wild ass dreams if you're not understanding or learning how to program your dreams. You can program everything. Program your dream. Program a dream that you're a fucking millionaire every fucking day. Do what millionaires do inside of your dream. Something simple. Program that you're a millionaire every single day inside of your dream. Live out as a millionaire. Read books on, read if taking literature about businesses and all of those aspects. Something simple of that nature. The same way you've taken all these aspects about deities. The same way you're taking the stuff about psychology and deities and light magic and mind control. Build yourself a realm inside of you. Build that realm up. Get that realm together. That way, every time you come back, less and less of you comes back here. Less and less of you comes back here based on the only reason you can't leave stuff up there is because you still got stuff attached to you. Your whole purpose is to release from all the shit that is in your shadow, to integrate with your shadow. Integrating with your shadow bypasses, it helps you bypass and get through the illusion. Because now you program it to work for you. That's how you learn how to transmute down here. You can transmute everything down here, but you got to be emotionally stable to do it. Go watch the movie The Witcher. Go watch The Witcher or any movie when they're talking about you got to be balanced with your energy before you can do any of that. That's what they're telling you. But you're only used to transmuting through pain. You're only used to transmuting through struggle. So since that's your primary program in whatever shape, form based on your shadows and your traumas and events that you've not dealt with, that's how this space is created. The false sense of choice. That's that false sense of choice that you have down here. Because just like you can go down, just like you're sitting here talking about, you sitting there holding your traumas back and you're triggering and you holding your traumas back, it got to come out somewhere, unconsciously or consciously. Your unseen creates your space. Your unseen creates everything in this illusion, inside of this matrix. It goes untrained. Therefore, it always hits you. It always hits at you. And you always like, no, I don't want that shit to happen to me. That's your deception. You thinking that you can't control it. You think you ain't got the power to control over it. You still got the mask on. You still worried about them putting a shot in your damn arm. Meanwhile, you shooting yourself up every single day to catch a high anyway. They're going to put microchips in us. You got a whole microchip that's right here as your phone. My phone stays next to orgone pyramids, so it stops the bends frequency. I have to use it while I'm down here. That's how I do most of my work. You have to transmute this shit. You upset. You thinking, why can't I get a man aspect? The simple shit that builds your illusion that you really don't understand that is based in that lineage. You got a whole baby mama club. Everybody on your mom's side of the family is baby mama out. Everybody on your dad's side of the family is the baby father club. There's a reason for that. It's usually on some petty ass shit. It's based on some petty ass shit that became a shame. And you're reacting out, stuck on the polarity of shame, trying to make your shames pleasures. You're trying to make your shame that's my pleasure. Because you don't want to deal with it. You don't want to face it. But you'd rather use the energy. That's that false sense of entitlement. Your trauma made your relationship. Your trauma made your relationships. But you were in expectancy based on the title that goes into that relationship. As a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, as a husband, as a wife, those are just identities. You're already, the moment that you connect with somebody on a mental aptitude, you're already married. They're already going to start mirroring your thoughts. Go look at somebody in the face. Go look at somebody that's uninitiated inside of the face. I do it all the time when I go to the grocery store. One of the most fun dynamic things that I've been doing as of late, playing with my powers, using my powers, is going to the grocery store and looking at the attendant or the grocery clerk behind the thing, looking them directly in their eyes. look them directly in their eyes. And every thought that's in their head comes streaming out, and I just start reflecting it back to them to make them feel comfortable, uncomfortable. They're gonna feel they feeling uncomfortable, they feeling comfortable. I had a whole chick ask me about every piece that was on every piece that I was wearing. Walked out. Because I'm not doing things based on guilt anymore. The key to you using your power is not using it in the lower frequency. I don't feel guilty for anything. I don't feel insecurities for anything anymore. There's no jealousy, there's no doubt, there's no grief. So every time that I move into a space, everything that I do is I naturally transmute every energy. Even if I go into it, and once you start getting good at that point with yourself, with your energy, now you're going to be in a space with yourself where you're like, you know what? I don't got to go there anymore. I don't have to go there anymore. I ain't got to deal with that anymore. That's not a part of my journey anymore. This is that natural falling off process. You still got a control issue based on something that your mother did to you, and you still acting that out. I remember acting out a lot of shit that my mother did, not even realizing it. I remember acting out a lot of shit that my pops did, didn't even realize it. It was secondary because it was based on emotion. Going into spaces, since I went into that space, remember everything that you ain't dealing with is going into that space. So I'm going into this space, having these conversations, and I'm noticing that my conversations, after a while, I didn't even remember doing half of the shit that I was doing inside of the conversation. You said this and you said this and you did this. I did? For real? I don't remember doing that. When did I do that? Because it was based in emotion. Most of the shit I was doing was based on that emotional aspect. I was stuck in that space with myself, getting upset at things based on lower level shit. I wasn't learning how to transmute. What is bothering you? What is bothering you? This shadow work, this soul work shit is your most important piece. Until you do this, you can't apply until you do your shadow work, you cannot truly apply anything. Because you won't understand it. You can't allow, your spirit can't lead. Your spirit's going to lead you to your shadows every single time. Until you integrate with your shadow and go through this. This is the transcending aspect. And now you start doing the work on this end with understanding understanding the aspects of your shadows. You can't go through the full metamorphosis. There's a difference between your transformation and your metamorphosis. Motherfuckers that become conscious and awake and aware, you're aware, so you transformed, but the thing that you didn't deal with, that you transformed, still got you stuck in you still stuck in duality. You still stuck in polarity. You still stuck. You can't get past the integration period. And everything that's coming into your space is triggering you and bothering you based on the integration period. I thought about it the other day. I was like, how can niggas be upset at Kevin Sam, this Christian-based image consultant? He is a Christian-based image consultant. How are you upset with this? How are you feeding into that? Why? I watched a couple of the I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Don't use Act body spray. Yep. Of course. Time to grow up. That's the message I get. I took what I needed, left it alone. Don't care about nothing else. Feeding it. There's a difference between feeding and transmuting. There's a difference between feeding and transmuting. Transmuting allows you the transmutation of energy. It leaves you in the state. You now shed. In feeding, you got to slow the fuck down. You got to slow the fuck down when you feed. Living in that fear base with yourself, you're living in that fear base, you're feeding. That means you always got to slow down. That means you have a reason to procrastinate. You got a reason to put some shit to the side. You got a reason not to deal with some shit that you need to deal with. You always got a reason not to deal with something. Always got a reason why. It does me great shame. It does me great shame. I'm in a position now with myself in my mindset where there's certain things that I'm not forcing anything anymore. Natural aspect of the connection. I'm not questioning. I'm questioning more in that aspect of me learning how to receive, me learning how to be more in that aspect of response, me being more, I'm more offensive now than I was before. Why does it bother you? They said something to you, it hurt your feelings. Why does it bother you? That's the conversation you have to have with yourself. They hurt you, they betrayed you. Why does it bother you? What does it remind you of? What memory inside of your mind are you not allowing to come fully to the surface? Every man I done been with cheated on me. Because you went into that space, perhaps because you saw your mother get cheated on. So you've been trying in every one of your relationships to correct every mistake everything you thought was a mistake that your mother did that based on survival. So if you're going to try to correct those mistakes, it's a passive approach. Guess what? You're doing it based on survival. That means your mother needs to stay bitter. Your mother needs to stay upset. Your mother needs to stay the way that she is so you can stay the way that you are. Past, present, future, continuum. But if you go back and realize we go back and you like, what was the emotion my mother was feeling? My mother felt shame for years. My mother felt rejection for years. A couple of months ago, I had a conversation with my mother in her first healing session with me. Because yes, my mother, and like when it comes to healing sessions with family members or the karmic debt, the cosmic bank family members, they have to come to me just like everybody else. That's one thing you're going to learn based on transmuting. I'm not going to go find you to go help you. You got to be ready for that. I can't, no. You got to get yourself out of that mindset because you stuck in that mindset trying to, I'm going to go help this person. I'm going to go help this person. I'm going to go help this person. The more and more that you do it, the more and more separate you are from your shadow self. Therefore, the more and more you're running away from now you're running from your shadow. The less and less I stopped running from my shadow, I noticed that everything that needed to be in front of me came right in front of me when it needed to come. I trusted divine timing. I cashed out. I cleared out those bank accounts. I cleared out those aspects because that's part of your process. That cosmic bank. You open up an account based on guilt. Your family opened up that account. The soul contract was based in shame. So now shame gets traded back and forth on the stock exchange. Everything that can help you avoid guilt and all your guilts and all your insecurities and all your pains and all that shit is traded on the stock market. It will continue to be traded on the stock market until you deal with the things that you need to deal with. It's in correspondence with your soul contract. You upset about a shadow government. So you still think your shadows are bad. But if you really understand that the shadow government, everything down here is the reflective you put yourself down here, then the shadow government really ain't got the shadow government ain't nothing but things that manipulate my emotions. What do I do all day? I run away and I manipulate and I run away from my emotions. That's your shadow. That's what's governing you. The families that run the world. The last time that I remember when I looked at it, the Aryans, I forget the damn names. I was trying to look up the names, pull the names up earlier. But the 7 classifications are the same as the 7 families, or the 7 chakras, or the planets. the planetary system, the aspects, the galaxies, the voids, all of that shit's in synonymous aspect. Wait, that's me. The ones that are affecting me the most is me. I remember when I found out that the Aryan Brotherhood were us. And I went to go look back at everything from the pointy hats to all the different color robes and all of this shit. It was all ceremonies, all based on the ceremonies that we made into that physical aspect. I was like, it's really nothing to be scared of. It's really nothing for me to fear anymore. Why does it bother me? Why is it getting to me? Why does it bother me? Why does it upset me? Why does it make me feel some type of way? What is the truth behind it? Not based on the collective of the hive mind or the aspect of the struggle of the black people. Like right now, they preparing your net for that next ritual because they hitting y'all with that. They hitting them with the Black Wall Street pictures and all that shit. They hitting you with that. So they stopped COVID. Some places they ain't got to wear masks no more and shit. So they did that. Now they talking about the Black Wall Street shit again. All before you get to the summer solstice. They do the same shit every fucking year and you fall for it. The year before last year they didn't have the COVID shit. Last year they didn't have a gas shortage because everybody was at the house. But the year before that they had a gas shortage. Yeah. They had a gas shortage the year before COVID hit. So they end out COVID and bring back the gas shortage. You reacted. Oh my God, we got to go fill up our tanks and all this bullshit. All it was exposing is like, in reality, you didn't ever keep your tank full anyway. You're either going to underdo it or overdo it. That passive approach to things. Wait for something to happen, and then either you're waiting for something to happen or you're going to think about it until it happens. That's that. You stuck in that polarity. Either you're going to think something, either you're going to wait for some shit to happen or you're thinking about it until it happens. Or you sitting right there in your square in the middle point, and you're like, you know what? I can make some different shit happen. Let me prepare myself for whatever comes down the pipe. Instead of me sitting here waiting for some shit to happen, and then I'm going to blame everybody else anyway. You got to stop running from yourself. You putting yourself in situations that ain't got shit to do with you. You on places that ain't got nothing to do with you. Trying to maintain that space because it gives you the feeling of that longing aspect for your life. But in reality, it's taking you further and further away from your purpose and further away from yourself. I remember working, and my work was an escape. That's all my job was an escape. I was escaping away from the bills at the house. I was escaping away from any problems at the house. Earlier on, I was escaping from the problems with family. I was escaping in my job. I didn't travel. Like when I was opening up restaurants, I didn't travel all over the goddamn place. Running away. Vacations, running away. The only reason the vacation felt so good, because in the reality of it, half the vacation was based on escape. When I came back, I was struggling. I always had to come back to the point of struggle. Whose fault was that? I could have easily been like, you know what? I'm going to save. Simple shit I could have saved. Maybe I can go to, I want to go. And then I got to a point with myself where I was like, because I remember when I used to take vacations, I would take, a weekend. 2 days. 3 days. A couple days. But now, when I was taking the week-long vacations, them shits was great. Because somebody else could be on that frequency. As you're evolving and going forward, you're shifting your frequency so other people can't go on that plane. Other people can't do the things that you do. The only way that they can cope with doing the things that they do is keeping it. The only reason that other people can come into those spaces with you in those spaces is because of the basis of the thought process of what you brought into that space. Go somewhere based on doubt. Go somewhere based on doubt. Go somewhere under the basis of doubt. Yeah, now they talking about reparations. They gonna give you some reparations. What you gonna do? Spend it? What you gonna do? Spend it? Okay, now what? You didn't spend all your little reparation money. You didn't spend all your little reparation money, just like you spent your stimulus money, just like you spent the little PPP loan. Some of these niggas going to jail for PPP loans. And now you're going to be upset. I watched somebody make a post. I don't know why everybody getting and laughing at these motherfuckers about to go to jail because of fraud with the PPP loan, because they've been doing fraud to us for years. You got to understand there's a way to play this game. This game ain't played on no fucking emotions. This game is used to use your emotions. Either you understand your emotions and build, or you allow them to keep using your emotions. That's why you keep getting stuck in positions that you keep getting stuck in, because you keep letting them use your fucking emotions. They've been robbing us for years. Look at the banking system. Go holler at the motherfuckers. I didn't join I didn't linked up with the BWO group, then got down my little membership with them, because Jake Taylor Thomas always talk about be your own fucking bank. Brother Ben X is over there talking about digital real estate or your social media accounts. Derek Grace is they all talking that there's no more excuses. This is why when you doing shit based on them emotions, I remember like all the trips I was taking was based on some fucking escape shit. Because I never did because I noticed that the trips I was taking, and a lot of the trips, the things that I really could have done on my trips was on some big boy. I was trying to do some big boy shit, and I'm like, nigga, you can't even afford this right here. What are y'all doing? You can't come up to this level. So I started using my trips as ways to cut Nick, like motherfuckers couldn't come. But now, over the last couple of years, the trips that I was taking, they were all business related. This is before I even build a business. They were all business related. The first 2 days of the trip, I had to go sit and I had to go learn some shit. Then the rest of the trip was like basically motherfucking paid for. I had any extras I had paid for, but like everything, basically the room and all that shit was paid for. Because you're shifting your energy. I was like, yeah, niggas can't come with me where I'm going. So let me go do some. If niggas can't go where I'm going, I'm damn near not going to go where places niggas going to be. I'm going to go to do some different shit. My plans next year is to go to, I want to go to Utah. I want to go to places that are very occult based with energies and grids. That's one of my goals to go to. I want to go to those places. The places where regular niggas get trapped and get out. They get hit with that get out syndrome. I want to go in there and I'm going to flourish. I know I am. I want to take my shit to the next level. But that's what I'm building to. Are the things you doing based on you avoiding, or is it based on you really getting to yourself? When it comes to your self-care, is your self-care is more than surface level shit. Remember, you can program everything that you do based on self-care. From when you're getting your nails done, and when you're doing a meditation, and when you're doing a facial, everything you can program an intent into. What's your thought based on doing it? It should not be primarily, and I always say primarily, it should not be primarily for you to look better. That's the byproduct. Of course, you do a facial, you're gonna look better, But what are you removing when you put the mask on? You put the charcoal mask on, and you set the intention. I'm removing the mask of insecurity with this self-care, with this mask. I'm removing my doubts. I'm removing my insecurities. I'm removing the mask so I can deal with my insecurities. When I go to the gym, every push-up has an intent set to it. Every pump, every weight has an intent set to it. That way, the emotional catalyst of the natural succession and shit slowing down here, it doesn't affect me in that phase. I'm in my own world. You ain't on the level. You ain't on the level. You ain't in the. Is it your tribe or is it the motherfuckers that you sitting there trying to fucking deal with based on you trying to hide in your emotions? Most of the time, think about trips that you take in, events that you getting into. You've been doing the same birthday shit for years, and then you will sit there and say that one of your friends, I don't see how they're celebrating. Man, I'm too old for that shit. Motherfucker and drink every day of the week for their birthday. They ain't the only time that they're doing that. They doing that shit all the fucking time. Why is it bothering you? Why is it bothering you? I remember I asked somebody like, yo, why you celebrating? I remember I asked somebody on their birthday, I asked somebody, what are you celebrating? What the fuck are you celebrating? Straight to their fucking face. Offensive as hell. What are you celebrating? Hit them with that Cameron paid in full wordplay. What the fuck are you celebrating? Another year of being alive, man. What did you learn? I remember I had a whole conversation with my mans. What did you learn? What did you learn in the last year? He was like, I never really thought about it like that. And when we were sitting in that space, I broke down. I was like, that's how I think about my birthdays. Every year, I don't want to be something. The things that I killed off. I don't want to carry nothing with me forward. I want to be empty as fuck when I leave. I don't want to have to carry that. I don't want to have to a reason to have to come back here. I don't want to have to make a return trip. I've been here many fucking cycles. I've seen many things in many different forms. I done been down here as birds and wolves, and I've been down here as a tree. I got cut down really quick. I've been through my Atlantis phase. I've been through my Anunnaki phase. I've been through all of those fucking phases and been all those aspects as I came down here. This is the first space that I came down here in a form that was based in the human aspect. I've only been down here 3 cycles as a human, in this human suit. Every other thing I was down here is something else that was outside of my, But because I wasn't learning the lessons and I didn't master certain aspects, every time I came down here, I kept coming back down here as this. Now I'm down here as this. So I can now verbally illustrate everything that I've learned throughout my transitions. The day that I opened up and the day I'm telling stories in this life cycle, I remember everything that was put against me, that put me against the wall that I boxed through. Sitting there telling stories about my death, telling stories about transitions, my birth, all of these aspects, all that shit was online. Ready to fucking go. I learned how to manipulate this. I had to learn manipulation this go around. My go around on this page was learning manipulation, learning the deception, learning how to deceive without guilt. There's a difference between you using deception based on shame and insecurity and guilt, and you using deception in the higher aspects of the quality, your trickster qualities, my trickster qualities, my ability to say something directly to you the way that it needs to be said, and you feel a certain type of way, and not become engulfed in your guilt, engulfed in their insecurity, engulfed in their pain, their false sense of pride. That's that technique for yourself. That way, when you're moving around in this space, you ain't getting You're not getting stuck and all locked up in some bullshit. I done had conversations with individuals now over the last couple of weeks that they've been emotionally dead for 10 years. Just now, I've been emotionally dead for 10 years. That's what's coming to the surface. I don't even remember. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, I never heard about shadow work. And the only time I ever heard about shadow work was on some spooky shit. It wasn't synthesized. Not to deny the aspects that were coming out about shadow work, but nobody was actually bringing it into that synthesized format of understanding the basis of your emotion, the emotional catalyst. Nobody was carrying it over. Nobody was doing the full integration. Everybody was still stuck in this mentality of you got to go through your shit by yourself, and okay, they still holding on to pains and shit. No. The shit that I know now is like, niggas, it's not feasible for you to go through processes by yourself. It's not feasible. It's not feasible. Unless it is part of your path and you to be a shaman or a healer or to come into that aspect, it's not something that you got to go through yourself by. You ain't got to sit there and wonder to yourself. That's why this is that aspect that the healers are online. You got to change your mentality. The expectations that you set for yourself, they don't matter. The expectations that you set for yourself were based on something else. It bothers you that you are not meeting your expectations. Why? It bothers you that you are not making that, you didn't make that cup, you didn't make that money, you didn't win that. Why? Because it was based in your lower level emotion. You want to be a millionaire, but you still thinking like niggas that ain't got no money. You still thinking, oh, because I thought that same shit. Like if I had the car, the crib, all this shit, nigga, I was doing my thing. I was okay, cool. But I realized as long as I stayed in that mentality, the more and more I spent, the more time or the more emotions that I spent in that space. Since those accounts were based on my doubts, my insecurities, my wounds, the things I wasn't dealing with, those accounts stayed open. So now everything that came into my space brought me doubt. If Shorty was like on fucking 10, gorgeous in a physical sense, and she like me, of course I would hide behind an identity or this false sense of pride with this false sense of masculine aspect, but I was really emotional with it. Of course I'm going to sit there and hide behind it and try to maintain that space, and I'm going to do the things that need to keep to maintain that space. Of course. But when I really started understanding, story time, there was about a week straight. That was like a couple months straight for me. When all the chicks were doing the sticking their tongue out, doing the Cardi B thing, period, and all that shit. And I had been in my spiritual self for a couple of weeks, couple months, few years. But here came the test. I remember they would walk up to me. We would have conversations. They would talk to me. They would come around me. They would confide in me and say shit to me. We have conversations and talks to that nature. But when it came to sealing that deal on some physical shit, it never worked. It never happened. As much as I thought I was like, okay, because my mind was going past a certain point where my mind used to stop on the physical aspect of getting energy. I wanted more. As you become more empty, you desire more. Remember, everything you take into that space is going to be the catalyst of what you desire. Is going to be the catalyst of your desires in that space. So you go into a space and you ain't dealt with your sexual urges, i.e., the energy based in your sexual aspects, in the physical aptitude. When you go to the higher spaces, the first things you're going to be attracted to are, of course, the things of that sexual nature. You're going to be stuck within that space because that urge needs to be fed. But it's nothing good or bad. It's positive and negative because perhaps you need to go do some wild shit in that space. As long as you learning some shit, do what you need, do what thou wilt. As long as you learning some shit. But when you going into that space to suppress some shit, none of this shit is based on suppression. If I go into a space and my mindset is set on suppressing something, that means I'm going to hide behind this. Then when I go into that space, I'm going to become addicted to the space. I'm going to become addicted to that space. I'm going to be sitting there like, ooh, I got to keep doing this. This shit feels great. I'm not learning anything. I'm stuck in that space. I'm feeding from it. It's feeding from me. I'm not transmuting anything. Yeah, I get emotional. Yeah, I want to. Yeah, you going to get emotional. Yeah, you going to go say stuff. And yeah, you're going to want to be honest and shit. But you're not really doing it based on transmutation. You're just now speaking your existence into that space. So now that space becomes your new prison. So whatever you're supposed to master in that space, the only thing that you're paying attention to the only thing you can pay attention to is your emotions. The things you ain't dealt with are the things you pay attention to. So now you're sitting there, but I wanted to be, we were friends once. No. I've shed so many identities in that space for myself of shedding all of these different identities. I've learned more and more about myself as I shed each identity. As I no longer was in the position that I was in back in those times, back in those moments, and I learned as I was moving forward, I was like, I was supposed to be offensive in that space. Conversation what I had when motherfuckers said I was offensive and I shouldn't have said that or I shouldn't have did this. You should have been more caring or more concerned. Why? To care? I don't care about shit. But I have the aptitude of because I know the difference between caring and compassion. Caring is an external aspect based upon your insecurities and your wounds. Compassion is the understanding of my wounds, understanding and assessing of my wounds and the things that I needed to heal. So I understand when I go into a space and have a conversation, I have the aptitude in order to learn some shit. I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer. I'm not looking to be right or wrong. Caring is if you stuck in that caring zone, that's why you keep attracting those narcissistic behaviors. When you stuck in that caring zone, that's when you attract energy vampires. That's when you attract the narcissist or the new age aspects. That's another thing we got to get out of our mindset. We keep hiding behind the new age aspects. Peace. We keep hiding behind the new age aspects that are only principles, that are only derivatives, that are becoming more fundamental. Since you are still bound to your emotions as your master, you get bound to the new age you synchronize with the things that based on that space. I am a wolf. I am a vampire. I am the vampire. I am Dracula. I am the original. I understand I'm so charismatic with my energy. I'm charismatic with my energy. I pull in, I entice. But my point of doing the enticement, my point of how I speak, how I lead myself, how I move, how I speak, how I learn is to entice. And go watch the new Dracula movie on fucking Netflix. The new Dracula joint on Netflix. That nigga was in that he was obsessed with learning shit. He was obsessed with learning shit. He said a beautiful line in that movie. When you learn how to read the blood, everything's in the blood. When you learn how to read the blood, you master everything. When you learn how to read the blood, you master everything. So why wouldn't I want to be fucking Dracula? Why wouldn't I want to learn how to transmute energy? You got thinking that shit's bad. You looking like, oh my God, yeah, the DNA. Why would I not want to learn how to do that shit? Why would I not want to master an aspect of me? Why would I not want to learn this aspect of me? That's where I'm getting close. You're getting back to you in the most primordial sense. The primal aspect is the behavior. The primordial sense is yourself in that authentic space. The primal aspects are your behaviors that you're getting in line. So that primordial behavior is learning how to master that aspect. You are going, because you naturally already going to look like you're a monster to anybody anyway. To the one, you're only going to be seen through their perception. If they're ready to receive it, you will be the most glorious looking angel, most glorious looking individual in the world. If they're not ready for it, they're going to perceive you as a monster. They're going to perceive you as a monster anyway. It's time to change your perception. It's time to change your perception of how you're moving into your spaces. You still trying to remain in the cult-like mystique of being, ooh, I'm black. Ooh, I'm a Moor. Ooh, I'm a nation. But you hiding your emotions behind that shit. You went into that space based on doubt. Not say that you needed to learn through that space, but don't get trapped in your own emotions. Remember, what you take into that space is shit you got to deal with. Mm-hmm. Listening to is fucking delicious. Once you go watch Originals, in the last season of Originals, where Elijah learns from, I forgot the other vampire name. She teaches that nigga how to feed. And it was a fucking blockbuster wowzers moment. She taught that nigga how to feed. Yes, that is an emotional trap. She taught that nigga how to feed without fear, to feed outside of fear. Because the first time he saw it, it's good. You're coming to the point. Oh, she in here. The magic works. She got the magic in there. The point of you, the wanting of nothing. The wanting of nothing is that going to be the ultimate goal? You want nothing, you need for nothing, you desire nothing. The key to understanding to stay within that aspect is whenever you're bothered by others' expectations. That's the other key. Like I'm naturally in a space where I don't need nothing, I don't want nothing, I'm not asking for anything, I don't need anything. Everything that I need within that space, I'm gonna break in that story. But it's all based in the humility of my emotions in myself. I could have no bondage. When I really learned the aspect of me not having any expectations, I had to understand that the next level to that was the emotional catalyst. Like I have no expectations, but in not understanding my thoughts, why do they keep, the question that you ask yourself is like, why do they keep trying to make me feel this type of way? Why are they stuck? Why are they trying to project this perception onto me? Why is this projection coming at me so frequently? There's something that I do have an expectation, because deep down, because it only keeps coming up. It only keeps coming up because there's something that you have not yet dealt with in correspondence to it. That's the key. I had no expectations for anybody, but my expectations were clouded. My no expectations were clouded because I wasn't taking care of myself in a certain way, because it was certain that my lack no expectations was based on something. Mine were based on emotions. Mine was based on me not being in tune with my emotions. A lot of times it's like, maybe it might be emotions. It's like my emotions, like, so I had to go back through that period. It was like, at what period in time did I shut off my emotions? When did I stop feeling shit? So in that question, that same thing is like, when did I stop feeling things? When did I shut off my emotions? When did I cast my emotions in a bottle and cast them bitches out to sea? Yes, that's all. Basically, it's most of the disconnection. Like I'm sitting there like, why am I not feel? Why? Where did my emotions disconnect at? Where did I disconnect my emotions? Remember, the point is not to disconnect my emotions. The point is to understand your emotions in every space. The point is not to disconnect from your emotions, is that grow to understand that connection with your emotions. I'm connected to all my emotions. It was Thursday. Yesterday, I had a couple readings after, and I was sitting here just chilling, and I'm watching TV, and I just start tearing the fuck up. It's raining outside, so I start tearing up. I'm like, why am I feeling this rush of energy and emotion? It turns out that when I started feeling it, the last reading that I did that night was an ancestral reading. The last reading I did that night was an ancestral reading. So, the last reading I did that night was an ancestral reading. And I do ancestral readings. It's a service I don't offer in public because niggas are actually stupid and ask dumb questions. So I only offer it to certain people. Like, if we've been doing work for a while now, and you come to me and say, yo, I want to get some ancestral, understand my family tree, there's some shit going on, then yeah, we can build on that. But like, if you like a new person, and you talking about, but I need to understand why no, you still in excuse mode. You ain't ready for that level yet. Because every service that I provide, I'm not ever going to I'm not going to coach you into anything. I'm not going to be like, yo, you need this. You should be doing this. That's a challenge to the humility. But me going into that space, I realized, and it's crazy that sis brought that up, because I was thinking about it on my walk. I noticed why I wasn't getting to where I needed to go. I had some shit I had to work on. My first thought that would pop up in my mind that I would feel guilty over later, or insecurity or doubt over later, some residue that was left on the table, was because I felt guilty for certain shits. The moment that I would say the mantra in my mind of, I'm about to, like, it's going to open up and I'm going to have this many, this is going to be my week. This is going to be my workflow. This is going to be my week. My services are going to bring me this, this, and this. Later on down the line, following my thoughts, I'm having all types of weird ass fucking thoughts that were of my old self. I was having old thoughts of my old self. The old things I would do, the things I would used to do. I got better, and then I got to a point it was like, I need to address those aspects. How to get in a car, get in a place, all of these aspects. I need to address those aspects of how I used to think if when what I thought money was. Yeah, that residue, the residual residue, that shit's there. So when I addressed that, when I sat down with myself and I was like, why do I still think this way about money and car? And there's nothing wrong with me I had to get out of this guilt pattern. It was a guilt pattern for me. I was like, I don't want to get a car because now I feel guilty because I'm supposed to be helping people, da da da. It wasn't the guilt. It was a guilt pattern. It was how I was going to achieve getting my car. So then over the last couple of months of this year, I've been studying LLCs, getting your companies through your LLCs, tax write-offs, the credits. I've been studying the foundation as a millionaire. I already had the mindset of a millionaire already in play. I'm up at 5 a.m., workouts, meditations, things of that nature, building to that nature. But now I need to continue building. So at that point in time, I understood that it was making me stagnant. I need to get uncomfortable. That guilt works for you. That insecurity works for you. That grief works for you. It's not the point to disconnect from your emotions. It's the point to understand how to use these shits as tools. So if I feel guilt, I transmute through the guilt in a learning process. I don't stay obsessed in guilt. I don't stay obsessed in shame. And when I started doing this aspect, when I started speaking at that level, it kept the chaos going. It kept my natural state of chaos going. Through chaos brings order. If I'm not using the chaos, I never come into order. I never come into balance. I stay passive. So now I have conversations. So the next car that I get, I'm going to get through the company. The car that I'm going to get is going to be 6,000 pounds. Over 6,000 pounds. That way I can put it on my taxes as a write-off. That way I can take the taxes, everything from the depreciated value of my car as it depreciates my payments of my car, I can write off. The maintenance that I write off on my car because it's a company car. Any effects that I add to my car is a company car. Get written off at the end of the year. So it don't matter how much money come in because the key is to be able to keep putting it out there. How I put it out there is how it returns. But I have to have the understanding of the intent of why I'm putting it out there. Same thing with the crib. Same thing with your crib. You can rent your crib forever. If you got your name, I'm gonna give you something to think about real quick. If you got an LLC, you got a company right now. You got a company right now. And you got an apartment or a house or whatever. And you're renting out your place, you're renting your place, or you're renting your house, you're renting your apartment, and you got a lease. If you're paying your payment, you're paying your lease on time every month, you can put that on your LLC. Exactly. Now I'm sitting in that space. Now I'm like, the next crib that I get, and I put my name on that lease, is going through the company. End of the year, I write it off. These are the thoughts of a millionaire. These are the thoughts of your higher self. These are the thoughts that you can't live in, you can't be in, you can't feel guilty for that shit. That's how you start playing the game. You are not changing anything down here outside. You are not changing anything down here so you can stay here. You got a purpose. You got lessons, a purpose. You got lessons, a plan, and a purpose. What are you doing in the position? You got positions, you got plans, and you got a purpose. What are you doing down here? What are you doing? I refuse to sit in a position where motherfuckers are going to be sitting there looking at me like, hey, but you got to do this, or hey, you. No, I refuse to sit in a position. I refuse to be in the position I was in 3 years ago, 5 years ago. You shifting. You should not be in that. You shouldn't be in the old accordances of yourself. I literally don't feel that shit anymore. I don't feel the guilt. When it does come up, it's something for me to learn. I've mastered that aspect. It's not disconnecting from it, it's connecting to it. Yeah, chaos is not stagnant. Your emotions should not be stagnant. When your emotions become stagnant, they become the fear. Fear is a stagnant emotion that moves even in your lower emotions. They keep moving at a quicker point. That's why you keep that longing feeling is so prevalent. Because when you open up this channel, when you do this shadow work, when you in this work, and you opening up these boxes, you're not just opening up your shame. You're getting to the root of the shame. The root of the shame that is within you is going to be is magnified by the shame that's on your family line. Everything that came into that channel that brought you into the point where you're at right now in this present moment. That's why that shame feels so heavy, even when it ain't that heavy. And that's why it's so easy to talk yourself out of it and distract you. That's why your ego can do it. Remember, the ego is that coiling, that ego is that circle motion. Your true self is in that spiral to keep rising up. You in that same circle of shame. Where'd that shame come from originally? You got to understand your shame first to understand everybody else's shame. My mother is just me. I got my mother to the point where she's just now addressing her shames. My mother is just now addressing her shame. My mom is just now addressing her passiveness. It comes with a whole bunch of questions, and I'm there to answer them. Don't open that shit. You ain't ready to answer the shit. Simple and plain. You got all this information, and now you're wondering why everything's changing. You are the Mandela effect. You're the Mandela effect. Every time that you change something in your present, the past changes. Every time that you address and talk to your inner child, the past changes. The way that the past was manipulated has to change. The moment that I had a conversation with little Carlos about our pops calling us Lucifer and breaking down what Lucifer was to him, it opened up multiple emotional channels to me understanding why my pops said that in the first place. So I went back, had the next conversation with my 10-year-old self. Pops is only demonstrating and transmuting or transferring and feeding from the aspects of what his grandmother did to him. Oh. Mm-hmm. So now I'm giving my inner child a new perspective to look at it. So when my inner child's in that space, he now can recreate the space. Now I can recreate my universe. Now I can recreate my world. Now the way that I look at things is going to be different in my present because I addressed it in my past. It's no longer unseen. Remember, your unseen is what creates your space. It gives the results and the experiences within your space that you have to learn. Until you address these aspects and go back and, because you control time. You are a time fucking master. What cements you in time is the time is emotion. What cements the time is the behavior that you subject yourself to. So if you have a struggle narrative in your life and you've been emotionally charged based on the struggle, then your behavior is based on struggle. I.e., you feel the need for the timeline based on struggle. You stuck on Harriet Tubman not being on the $20 bill. I thought money was an illusion or a byproduct. Why would I want to put a reminder of myself on a byproduct? Oh, because I don't understand my emotions yet. I need to have a sense, I need to have a longing for ownership. I'm not owning my story yet. I'm not owning my past yet. I'm not owning my emotions yet. I'm not owning when I turn my emotions off. Or I thought I turned the illusion that I turned my emotions off. I'm not owning that I turned my emotions off. Or I thought I did illusion. You ain't never turned your emotions off. You ain't turned them off. They still working. They still in play. Yes, that's it. Yes, exact. Yes, Antoinette. Antoinette was that nigga's feminine aspect. She taught that nigga. She taught that nigga how to feed without getting through that, without getting the clarisol, the fear in his body. You got to learn how to feed without the fear. You keep feeding your fears because you feed through fear. Everything down here feeds through fear. When you come into this transmutation process, oh, poor baby. Why you think your grandmother always said, God bless? Your grandmother said some horrid shit about Estelle up the street. She is poor baby. God bless him. Your grandmother was transmuting the energy through a point so she didn't have to feel guilt for what she said. She said what she needed to say. It said God bless after because she wiped away the guilt from saying what she needed to say. You got to learn how to transmute this energy today. Tonight, you're going to learn how to transmute that energy without guilt. Tonight, you're going to learn how to say things without guilt. You're going to learn how to assess without going through that aspect of that guilt aspect. You say some shit, then you wondering why it's still on your mind after you didn't said it. Because it's addressing a pathway that you got to address. It's time to address that pathway. It's time to have that conversation with yourself. That's why it keeps coming back around. It ain't coming back around for shits and giggles. Exactly. You feed the frequency of that guilt. You feed the insecurity. You feed the jealousy. You feed the doubt. You feed the grief. You feed the stress. You keep feeding it. That's why it keeps getting fatter and fatter and fatter. That's why it keeps exploding all into your life. Drama, pain, doubt, the reason to make you jealous, that shit just don't come in your life. You created it in your life somewhere at a point in time. The more hidden that it is, give you something to really think about. The more you hide from your emotions and hide from the aspects of yourself, you're unseen, you're unhealed, you're undealt with. The stronger the projection is that comes into your life that hides it itself. He had a whole other family I didn't know about. He had a whole girlfriend I didn't know about. This bitch had a whole family that I didn't know about. It's giving you reflections into your past. Yeah. It's giving you reflections into your past. Why I keep meeting these niggas that got other families? Why does it bother you? Do you know your father? If you don't, guess what? The spirit giving you a message about your father. When we thinking about the spirit, when you're thinking about the spirit, you got to take it out of that good and bad aspect. Spirit don't give your spirit, your ancestors, they don't give a shit about good and bad. They're not in that realm anymore. They're about giving you the shit that serves you. They're about giving you the shit that's going to serve the purpose of what you need to do next. Yes, you got to be guilty. Like, what the fuck I need to care for? They're giving you the lesson that you need to learn. So if you sitting there and you kept saying to yourself, I really want to know my dad, or I have a longing for my father, connections to my father, connections to my mother, connections to family members. And then, for example, the next stream of your relationships, the nigga that you got with had another family, the chick that you got with, she getting out of a relationship, you asked for that. That is the spiritual aspect of you, like, why I keep getting all these women in my life that have other families and all these issues? The spirit is letting you know it's time for you to work. Yes, exactly, your shadow. Your spirit is letting you know that it's time for you to address that's something that's in your spaz. That's something that's there. I remember, like, for an entire period of time, I kept attracting one type of female, one type of woman, one type of female, one archetype of female. They all had dad issues. What it is. They all had daddy issues. I'm wondering why they had daddy issues. Deep down in the jungle deep of Carlos, nigga had some dad issues. I had chicks that I met that had mother issues. Why the fuck they keep coming up? I had some underdressed mom issues. Everything coming in your space is teaching you something about yourself. You just gotta be open for the lesson. Why every nigga come in my life that's emotionless? Why every chick that come in my life is over emotional? Yep, father wounds, mother wounds. You got wounds present. It don't matter what's being said, what's being done. The question is, why is it bothering you? Why is it upsetting you? Why is it bothering you? Why is it getting to you? Yeah, now that's the general aspect. That's accepted. They coming into the space to do something. When you have an expectation based on their identity and you ain't ready for it yet, I talked about this before in the polygamy lecture. Until I got married to myself and I married myself and unified myself on all the levels, that predestination complex of marriage was so strong in my life. I thought that was my only purpose was to get married and do all that other shit. Until I understood the unification process with myself, becoming fully unified within this being of this vessel. My masculine and feminine energies all online. And learning how to go between all of them. So now I'm sitting there in that space like, oh, that was the reason. All these lessons, they're a lesson. You learn the lesson, then you ain't got to worry. It ain't going to come up no more. You know it's a lesson when it keeps repeating itself. And once you master all the lesson, you're like, oh, damn, I ain't got to, oh, I'm good now. Now I can go to the next phase. Gonna be some more lessons. Your lessons are gonna become more and more mental. The deeper that you get, they're gonna become more and more mental. They're gonna become less and less physical, unless you keep taking physical aspects up there. What are you learning? What are you learning when you go into that space? You have that conversation with yourself. What are you learning? What are you mastering? If I'm not mastering anything, I'm hiding something. Mastering the balance between student and teacher. Mastering the balances between occultist and alchemist. Mastering the balances between these two spaces is stepping outside of duality. I am above duality. I am above the polarities. I'm above the things that used to keep me trapped. So now now in that full sense, the mentality is of a God, the soul aspect is of the Titan, the higher aspects of me is in the ancient realm. So I'm now I'm in that space. So the human shit really don't bother me. If it bothers me, it's something I gotta learn. That's the open cat. Okay, cool. It's time for me to learn some shit. You can stay in that space. You can keep doing the same shit every damn week because you living out your insecurity. You living out your doubt. I made a plan and I still don't understand. I just want somebody to love me the way I love me. I want somebody to love me and give to me the way I give to them. But every nigga that you meet don't meet that. It's only going to the category. They're showing you your truth. That nigga don't love you past a certain point. Maybe it's time to start learning it. Why can't you get past that point? Because it's going to boil down to physical shit. I threw that nigga a whole fucking party, but when it came to throw me a fucking party, that nigga bought me a cake and some flowers, but I spent like $3,000 on this nigga party. This nigga spent like $30. So you stuck on the physical aspect. That nigga spent $30 of what he had and did what he could do from his heart. You couldn't receive it because you didn't do your shit from your fucking heart. You didn't do your shit from the fucking heart. You did that shit from a space of expectancy. Time to be honest with yourself. Are you doing shit based on behavior? Or are you doing things actually based on the heart, the path of the heart? The path of the heart has to be clear before you actually start working with your heart. The path of your mind got to be clear before you start working in the paths of the mind. Because if I'm stuck in the mind, it means I'm stuck in the only way you can get stuck in the mind is the memories is the false mind. A lot of people are stuck in the false mind. When you're constantly regurgitating shit and you're stuck within this cult-like premise, this hive mind premise, I'm going to save everybody, I'm going to help everybody, you're stuck in the false mind or your memories. You're stuck in your memories. You're stuck in the catalyst of emotions that you're not dealing with. You made it to the level of, ooh, I ain't expecting shit. But it's based on a disconnect. It's based on that disconnect. Now it's time to address the disconnect. Where do you disconnect your emotions? Where do you disconnect from the discontent of your emotions? Because it's great to feel good. It's great to feel good all of the time. But whenever something's coming into your space to trying to make you feel bad, it's not changing your perception. It's not making you feel bad. It's telling you got something to address. Because shit coming to my space all the time. I don't feel bad. I don't feel shit about it. But I'm knowing that it's something I need to address. It keeps happening. If 19 people come to me and say, give me their thoughts, and I'm like, I just don't understand what you're saying. There's a difference between me not understanding what they're saying and the aspect of caring. I just don't care what the fuck you're saying. And then me having compassion for why they keep bringing it to my space. Somewhere I shut some shit off. They are the initiators of me turning my shit back on. There's an aspect of my life in my story that I shut off from, that I put behind a door. Ain't no saving nobody. saving, the savior. Exactly. I had a thought process about Skittles is delicious. Balance. The more selfless that you are, the more tethered you are to the perception of others to create your body. The more selfish that you are in that aspect, the more selfish that you are in a passive, this is in the passive narrative. The more selfish that you are in a passive narrative, the passive capacity to yourself. That means you want to be selfless. You want to help everybody. You want to save everybody. You want to do all these things for everybody. You want to make sure everybody's good. The more selfless that you are, the more you depend on the external narrative to build the body of you. That way you have more shit to hide behind based on the projection. The more selfish that you are, the less that you depend, the less that you are open to learn the aptitudes of what created your body. There's a balance. I'm in the balance of I am selfless. That means that there is no identity. There is no identity to me. I have no identity. My works become my works. What I've learned, those are the aspects that create the streams that are connected to me. So now the formulas that I've applied to myself to create that have given the life to Papa Lucifer, all of these aspects are now reflected. They're all mirrors. So if somebody comes to me through guilt, I can mirror their guilt to them and I can teach them about their guilt. It no longer comes into me. So I'm like, ooh, I feel guilty somewhere. You get to that process. This is that nirvana. It's not that they think they're going to play you. It's an aspect. It can be a botherance to the aspect of an emotional aspect. They haven't got to a certain point yet. And because I used to think motherfuckers trying to play me all the time. Ain't nobody going to play me. But I thought about it, I was like, they can't play me because they don't know me. They only know me based on a perception of what they know. So after a while, it was like they weren't trying to play me. They were actually trying to project onto me, and I was getting triggered I was getting bothered by the project. Why are you projecting on me? But it was letting me know it was time for me to leave that space. A lot of the time you coming into those spaces, once you've ascended, once you transcended past a certain space, everything in that space is going to irritate the shit out of you. Everything in that space is going to irritate your spirit to the core. It's going to irritate the hell out of your spirit. And then the longer that you stay in that space, the more you're going to feed into that space. So now the physical aptitudes within that space are going to be fed on. So the spiritual aspect, or the spiritual, the emotional, the behavior, down to what you start now. Now you're going to start eating based on now the emotions are being fed on. So now you got to feed them the same little vibrational aspects that's within that space. Because you got stuck in the process. I used to remember everybody. I used to think everybody in the world was trying to play me, but it was only based on a wound that I didn't address, an emotional wound I didn't address. They trying to come for me. They trying to knock me off my game. I realized that I needed to step my game up. I got comfortable. I got complacent. So then, when people were trying to do their projections onto me in certain spaces, if the projections became prominent, that means they became more and more stable. They started becoming stable to make me start taking in their thoughts, because now you're master. Now that you've mastered your energy, now you also have to master protecting your energy. There's levels to that shit. Like, you got to master protecting your energy. So now I'm in a space now with myself where, like, my energy is protected down to the molecule. Like, if something comes into my space that is off, my body naturally goes into the natural defense mode. I ain't even got to do it. I'll naturally get silent. Before, my silence was based on passive, but my silence is based on an active sense now. So if I get silent, that means I'm going into an assessing state. That means I'm going into I'm going into my full analytical state before I step back out of that state. Protecting I'm naturally protecting myself. I'm on my spawn shit. My cape naturally protects me. As you're navigating through your energies and you're learning how to master your energies, there's going to be those points in time where the anger is going to be needed, because it's going to teach you what you're going to need to do. It's going to teach you what you need to do inside of that space. That fear is going to be needed because those fear-based narratives are going to be needed, because it's going to teach you how to observe. It's going to teach you how to observe and respond to the space. If I know I don't like if I go into a space and I get irritated, I'm not even going to do it. Won't even do it. Like, never mind, fuck it. I'm in a meditative state at all periods of time. So it's like, breathe in, breathe out, fuck it, not doing it. I won't do it today, because it's not based on a state of avoidance anymore. It's based on protecting my energy. One of those, the light worker aspect, they'll be like, I'm protecting my energy. It's based on avoidance. Because if something keeps happening in my life, and I keep saying I'm protecting my energy, I'm really avoiding some shit. I really had to be honest with myself on that. I'm avoiding some shit. That's why I keep happening. Because there's no way in hell, in reality, like, if I really dealt with it, it's going to keep popping up to where I keep responding or reacting the same exact way. I naturally scan my body. My light bodies are in the space before I even get in there. My Damians are in the space before I even get into space. They're in the space before I even get there. Then someone say, hey, you going over to this event tomorrow? Where's it going to be at? I'm going to ask all types of questions. Where's it going to be at? Where's it going to be at? Oh, it's going to be at the park? All right, cool. What time? Best believe I'm creating a scenario in my mind for us to do that work. That's why I was so detailed and asking all the questions. Who all going to be there? All right, cool. Let me think of all the scenarios of dealing with this person. Nope, don't want to deal with them. Nope, don't want to have a conversation with them. Nope, don't want to have a conversation with them. Nope. I literally projected myself into that space. Nope. And open, because I'm open to all the possibilities being inside of that space. If they don't fit, I don't go. That's when my would be like, yo, it's a lonely life. No, it ain't. I'm always surrounded by my energy is fucking great. I'm in sync with my space. I'm in love with the energy inside of my space. I'm building inside of my space. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. If I don't, turn it all off. If I want it, turn it back on. Switching back and forth between my energies. I'm open to my energy. I'm in balance and open to my energy. If it's a space that I need to learn to observe emotion, I open up to the emotional gate. If it's something that I got to learn in building, I'm gonna open up to the building gate. They no longer can be used against me. So what about this happening in your life? That's why I always talk about owning your entire fucking story. You can ask me about anything in my story, and I will give you the exact way that I dealt with it. When you're in that's active. It's time to be active, not passive. The passive approach is you tell your story and then you look for an external narrative to make it why you're mad, why it happened. Yeah, still selfish. You looking for something outside of you to make your story make sense because you ain't dealt with it yet. You looking for somebody to blame for your pops doing what he did. You looking for something to blame your mom on what she did. You looking for someone to blame on what your uncle did. You looking for something to blame on what they did. They hiding in the same. You hide in the same shame they hiding in. That's why they still prevalent. I remember when the R. Kelly shit happened. I remember, if anybody noticed, that when the R. Kelly shit happened, around that same time they had the Epstein and everybody else happen. Change your perception. They showed you R. Kelly, and then on the surface you'd be like, ain't nobody innocent, even the black people they trying to bully out. Here's some this is how I thought about it. I was like, they showed all these white people and all these people. Then they gave us R. Kelly. That's not the first time they put R. Kelly in your face. R. Kelly made that music that dance at cookouts that your uncle danced to. R. Kelly made that music that aunts, uncles, and all kids dance to and all that good stuff. R. Kelly made music that my uncles and aunts dance to and they still dancing to. Why did R. Kelly really bother me? Question that I would ask myself. R. Kelly was that uncle or that old head in the hood that was always around the young girls. It was time for me to address what it was showing me. It's time for me to address what's going on in my family tree. Residue. I didn't fully go into the aspects of my uncle being a registered pedophile on the fucking registry. Didn't go into it and understand it. That's why it hit me. That's why I was looking at it. That's why it was shown to me. Everything down here is being shown to you as a purpose for you to learn some aspect of yourself. Everything down here is to help you learn yourself. You thinking that if you're still sitting here arguing about shadow governments and vaccines and they're doing this and Trump did this and now Biden's doing this and reptilian this and conspiracy that and all of these aspects, every time I see reptilians, it's like, it's time for me to say some shit. I transmute it. I don't let it stay where it's at. I bring it to where I'm at. I'm not going down there I'm not going down anymore. I'm not trying to be attached to shit anymore. I'm not trying to maintain the illusion. Because the moment that I get emotional over it, it maintains the illusion. The moment that you get emotional in it, the moment that you was in any relationship that you was in and you got emotional, it maintained the illusion. It maintained them false as expectancies you went in there with. I've said it before. Like when I really started working on myself, that's when my relationships changed. Yeah. My relationships started changing. Every time that I addressed, if I was with a chick that had the mother wound, the maternal wounds, and I started addressing my maternal wounds, she changed. She wasn't really it wasn't about her being ready to deal with her emotional wounds about her mother. She served her purpose. What I was attached to while I was in that space, not doing my work, not understanding what the work was supposed to be done, is I was stuck to the physical aspects of the energy that I was getting from the space. Sex was sitting there like sex is awesome. Yeah. Sex was amazing. I'm like, oh my God, this sex is amazing. I don't want to let it go. I didn't learn how to cultivate that energy within inside of myself. What I was feeding from, I remember dealing with my maternal wounds in that relationship, and then the sex changed. The same emotional imbalance that was used to keep that sex feeling so good, it changed. The same way that I was directing my energy in that space, it had changed. I came to a different level. I also learned in my works, when I brought my energies online, my clairvoyances, my clairambience, when I brought my psychic abilities and my energies online, and I was still surrendering or suppressing to my physical urge, I would activate that within them, and then it would be enhanced by their unseen. Remember, your unseen is an enhancement. So the issues that they did not deal with is what the fuck I was feeding. So I think I'm sitting here just dropping dick off in this chick, dropping dick off in chicks in relationships. And then I'm wondering why do they always start becoming insecure? Why do they start? That was already present. I just reflected and cycled that energy back to them and intensified it with my natural energy. It was something that needed to come to the surface. That was the purpose that I served in that space. When I really started understanding that and I started becoming more and more mental, then I understood my conversations did the same exact thing. All in the same continuous, all the same fucking energy. My conversation did the same damn shit. Oh my God, I never had no one talk to me like this before, or pay attention to my words before, and all of that shit. I was feeding the fucking space because I didn't understand my shit. I didn't understand boundaries are natural. As you understand your energy, the boundary is natural. It's the barrier that you create. The boundary is natural. Once you understand the energy in that side of that space, let's build the world real quick. Visualize, if you will. You in your living room, you in your space. Visualize, if you will. It's a glass floor, aka glass ceiling. As you're walking on this glass ceiling, there's a light coming up from the floor. Think Billie Jean. There's a light coming up from the floor. If I step on a certain space on the floor and I hit a trigger on the floor, an aspect of my shadow comes up. My shadow comes up through that projection. That's what I got to deal with. As you're walking around, all this shit's see-through. The shit ain't really here. The only thing that maintains it is your, this is why I talk about your unseen, unhealed, undealt with, those aspects. Those are the things that build that space. So you stepping on all these points, triggering all these things being coming up, that's what maintains the space. When you deal with that aspect, that no longer exists. The shadow integrates with you. Now you are one with the light, the black and the gold. The gold is your light or your outline of integrating with your shadow. That's when you go into soot. That's when you go into the original deity soot. Bobby Hemmett always talked about, when you talk about soot typhon, you talk about the color of the black and the gold. The gold is the outline of me being integrated with my shadow. That's the light. The darkness is the aspect of what I've now understood, and I built the body. For most people, when they're not dealing with their shadows, it's inverted. Go watch, what's the name of the movie? The movie when they were inverting themselves. It's on Prime Video, I believe, or on HBO. Turret. I think it's called Turret. Go watch it. Your auric field is now dark. This is the same thing with your auric field. Your auric field is now dark. You got to do it. Your body, your auric field is now dark. And on the inside is your light or your soul. Your soul is trying to get out of this body and switch this shit back. You're trying to invert it back into its original form. That's the integration of your shadow. So when you're going into spaces, remember your unseen creates your environment. Therefore, your shadow that you've not integrated with, your light, your insecurities, everything that's lit up. This is the same thing when we do shadow meditations with yourself, when we're working on sessions, and you're switching it the other way around. Your true self comes to the surface. Your insecurity, this is like when you go into that shadow world and you lit up like a fucking Christmas tree because your insecurities are lighting up. Your doubts are lighting up. Your jealousy, all of the things you haven't dealt with are lighting up. All the things you haven't dealt with are lighting up. So when you go into that dark space and you don't know what the fuck you doing in there, and you wonder why all this shit is attacking you, when you come back into the real world, you brought that shit with you. It was already there. You had to acknowledge it. Trying to bring it to the surface. It's time to deal with your shit. It's time to do your work. You getting to a point where it's time, it's time to do my work. Shit getting heavier. I can't procrastinate anymore. I can't put it to the side no more. I really need to start sitting here with myself more. I really need to start dealing with these aspects more. Instead of me sitting there in that space like, nah, I don't want to deal with it. Nah, I don't want to have that conversation. That passive-ass conversation you keep having with yourself. Yeah, I know I got some problems with my family. Yeah, I know I got some issues with my mother. You say that out loud, guess what happens? Somebody going to say, you sound just like your mama. You going to feel bothered and triggered. I ain't nothing like my mama. Yeah, you are. I had to understand I was just like my mother. Everybody let's go cue the Prince song. Maybe I'm just like my... Go cue the Prince song. You ain't satisfied. His mother was never satisfied because she was in the masculine seat. Father was never satisfied because he was in the feminine seat. Talked about the seats last week. You stuck in that space. That's why it's hitting you. That shit ain't happening there's no such thing as a coincidence. There's no such thing as a mistake. There's the infinite probabilities and possibilities all coming into that space. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been mastering deja vu. That's one of my next lessons for myself. I've been mastering deja vu. If I have a deja vu moment, I sit there, I reflect on it, and I bring it into this space. Because that's where I need to be going. Your deja vu tells you where you need to be going. Your deja vu tells you where you need to go, what you need to deal with. Mastering your power. Mastering time. Ain't none of that shit impossible. I master time all the fucking time. Time is emotion. Time is emotion. Time is submitted by your behavior. Your behavior is your acceptance or your expectancy based into that space. When I really understood my behaviors were based in expectancy, and the way I was behaving was based on expectation, I realized how I got stuck in time loops. When I acknowledged when I acknowledged my expectations and I became into a state of acceptance, the emotions would flow. I feel the emotion. I have to sit there and deal with the damn emotion. Where did it come from? Why is it bothering me? Why is it coming up now? Why does it keep coming up why does it come up every Thursday at 8 a.m.? What happened to me at Thursday at 8 a.m. in my childhood? Everything that keeps fluctuating and repeating itself. Most people live the same day. I remember living the same day every day. Get up, get dressed, go to work, find something to do before I come home, go to sleep, or take a shower, go to sleep, wake up, do it all over again. That was my sentence. That was my life. Passive as hell. The only time that I thought I was being active was during the vacation. Ooh, I took a vacation. I had an expectancy inside the space. If I'm in a relationship, then at a certain point in time, I got stuck in those spaces like, ooh, it's been a year. It's time for an anniversary. It's been my birthday. You don't do nothing on my birthday. You don't do nothing on this. I removed all the expectations. I accept what comes into the space. I don't want or need nothing. Those become the simplest points of teaching you that you don't want or need nothing. Because you're shifting. You're in connecting with your emotions. I can't say somebody's projecting something on me if I don't understand how they're projecting it. If I'm disconnected from understanding what guilt is and the layers or the lenses I put in front of guilt, then if somebody projects guilt onto me, one of these lenses will be activated, i.e. relationship, friendship, whatever it may be. Use an example of a friendship. If I got a lens in there based on acceptance wounds, it's the lens that is magnifying my light and that magnifying the light. Then every time someone has a conversation with me on a guilt trip story, if guilt is present within me, I attach to that guilt. If I'm denying the guilt or I'm denying the aspect, if there's anger attached to my guilt, then I'm naturally gonna be angry in that space. I don't know why motherfuckers keep thinking they're gonna ask me for money. Why is it bothering you? You created these motherfuckers to be in your space. You felt like you needed something. That was their purpose. The reason that they're still there is because you haven't fully acknowledged it. Now it's time to observe it. Now it's time to let that throat chakra speak for you. Like, look, I can't provide you no money, but I can give you these websites. I can give you these links. I can give you this information. This information is this $1 million information I'm going to give you. 9 times out of 10, they're only going to recess. They're only going to expand past they won't expand past their projection. So if they get upset that you say, hey, yo, I can give you this link to how to make a passive income, and they're like, man, why can't you just give me the $100? They gave you the answer you needed. That's the price that you pay to move forward. Not sitting there, because if you sit there inside of your guilt, you're going to have that conversation with yourself. Yeah, they've been through some shit. I remember I was in that point, so I gave them the money. No. you're going to get to a point where you're like, no. And your no is going to be direct and it's going to set that boundary. That no going to set that boundary. That yes going to open it up. Is your yes based in guilt? Is your no based in guilt? Is your no based in insecurity? Is your no based in avoidance? Ask yourself the true question. If I say no, I really mean no. There's nothing around it other than what they're going to project onto it. Look, you can accept it or not. I mean, what you going to do? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue doing what I need to do. I'm going to continue building the way I need to build. If you're not a part, then okay. But you got to understand, man, we got to stick together. You know, the white man is trying to stop us from being unified. White man ain't got no power. White woman ain't got no power. These niggas ain't got no power outside of me. They ain't got no power outside of your emotions giving them their power. I done dealt with my internal conflict, so they niggas really ain't got no power over me. They really ain't got no access to me. I'm damn near invisible to them. That sun, that shit radiating and hurt their feelings. They really ain't got no access to me now. The only reason they got access is because there's an emotional catalyst that they have access to. That's the point of the trigger, to teach you about the emotional catalyst. That's the point of the trigger, to teach you to open up the emotional catalyst. That's the point of the trauma, to help you master the emotional trap. That's the point down your timeline of why you got to deal with these certain aspects. 1 second. The sour cream citizens. Yes, the sour cream citizens. I feel no guilt for the things that I've done, because I knew there was a purpose for it to be done. If I felt guilt for the things that I've done, then I would be stuck in that emotional space. I have to move forward. That water pot shit was hilarious. If y'all follow me on Facebook, I'm gonna post it again. But yeah, somebody made water pie. I found a video about water pie, and it was fucking, why would you make water pie? They made an upscale sugar water sandwich, basically. You're gonna get to a point with yourself, right? People are drawn to that darkness. On either end, when you get stuck in the polarity of I love the darkness, it's only until your traumas get too fucking deep in that space. You stuck in that light, motherfuckers hide their shit in the light, and motherfuckers hide their shit in the dark. Motherfuckers that you hear talking about team dark side, dark this, and dark side this, and now they start talking about hell, Satan, and all that shit. Them motherfuckers are hiding their traumas in the darkness. Motherfuckers that's like on the other end, the motherfuckers talking about, I'm an Orisha, and I'm Oya, and I'm all these things, and they thinking about the light aspect. They hiding their traumas in the light. It's only when you standing on your square in this center aspect with yourself, when you're like, I'm no longer hiding my shit. I'm no longer hiding my insecurity. I'm no longer hiding these pains. I'm no longer hiding from the relationship that stunted my growth. I'm no longer hiding from the relationships that are reflections of me stunting my growth or something that I need to learn from. I'm owning all of it. I'm owning everything that can be perceived as fucked up that happened in my life. I'm owning it all. I'm sitting here and I'm going to own all this shit. I'm going to own everything that comes with this shit. Because that's the only way I'm going to maximize and I'm going to learn. That's the only way I'm going to grow. That's the only way I'm not going to repeat what my mother repeated, repeat what my father repeated, repeat those old ass lessons. Purple rains. I'm owning my doves crying. Everything inside of this space is meant to teach you some shit, bring you to that next level. You got to stop avoiding it. You got to let that shit come to the surface. I cried yesterday and that shit felt great. I had to check and make sure when blood coming from my eyes. So I was like, nigga, why am I crying? I had this moment where the new wave of energy that I'm in now, I actually got a picture. I'm gonna show y'all a picture I took. I realigned my altar this week today because it was time to. I was led to do it. And the coolest thing happened. This is not an edit image. If you look inside my crystal ball, you see that shadow, you see that light spinning around, you see the dragon spinning around inside of it. That shit happened before I lit those damn candles. Let me put it up like this right here. See that? That acknowledged that I was in my new cycle of energy. The moment that I did it, the moment that I lit those candles, the moment that I lit the candles and I was in my new cycle of energy, I felt myself. That was the representation of my energy now being in my new cycle. Shit was amazing. I was like, nigga, I feel great. I feel in my space. The more that you become into your space, the more unified you become with yourself, the more you become into your authentic aspects of yourself, you understand why you set everything up. You're making that foundation. If you're still building your foundation off of your traumas, the events that you haven't dealt with, that's like going to Walmart and grabbing like the pressed particle board and building your shit and then wondering why it fucking broke down in a couple of months. What you ready for? What you ready to do? Yeah. Meaning, I'm out of that. Stop repeating that. It's time to stop repeating the cycle. It's time to understand why you keep. It's time to understand why you keep repeating the same shit. It's not by coincidence. It's not by chance. You keep trying to bring shit down into that space based in guilt, fear, and you're only going to get it based on guilt and fear. You only feeding on guilt and fear. I give you something really trippy to think about. I remember 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I remember 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I remember I got involved with this one shorty, one chick. And every time that we did it, she wanted to confess everything about her life to me. I didn't know what the fuck that shit meant. I was baby consciousness. I was just becoming awake. Didn't understand the full aptitude of my power. So I'm out here wilding with it. I'm out here wilding with my power. I'm wondering why I'm having conversations with people and they're coming to me later on asking me questions. Everything that was happening was setting me up for my now. I've always been what I am now. As you're shedding these layers to your authentic self, what you've always been is coming to the surface. A lot of people are scared of their true power. So we get hidden behind the illusion of the things behind in our true power. Your shit coming online, family secrets is coming out, you ain't deception and all the other secrets and shame is coming out. Shit real heavy. You're getting to your truer self. That's what you were meant to do. You were meant to be that light bringer. You were meant to be that devil. You were meant to be that demon, that disrespect. You disrespectful as hell to some of your people that you know now. They only know how to come at you. You're so disrespectful. No, I'm direct. There's a difference between you being disrespectful and being direct. There's a difference between you being looked at as crazy and you being in your true shit. Crazy is attached to guilt. Disrespect is attached to guilt. Rejection. Those older wounds. It's time to turn your emotions back on. It's time to really have that conversation with yourself. It's time to, why does everybody in my family seem to not have husbands? Why does everybody in my family not seem to have wives? Why everybody in my family's baby mama club? It's time to ask those questions. Why everybody keep, who is this auntie that we don't know about? Who is this uncle we don't know about? Who is this family member? Some of y'all, some people right now, the person that's been your uncle your entire life is really your dad. The auntie that is always around taking care of your ass on some was really your mother. Time to have those conversations. That shit's coming to the surface. It's more prevalent. Remember that carbon 7 to carbon 12, your shadow's more dense. Can't run from your shadow no more. Ain't no more running from your shadow. Woo. I want you to be fucking great. I want you to tap into yourself. And now, since we vibing, I'm gonna leave the floor open for questions. You got questions? Drop them in the chat box, and we gonna play question and answer for the next couple. We gonna play question and answer. I'm gonna do a collective reading, but yeah, we're gonna do question and answers. You have any questions? Ask a question. You here for a real reason. Did I touch every topic that I said we were touching on? Let me look. I gave the bedtime story technique, culture tribe, transmuting through triggers. Yeah, we got all aspects in. You ain't building shit off of deception. You're not building shit off of your traumas because that's already been done. You're not building shit off your traumas because that shit's already been done. This space is built off of your traumas. This shit is built off of your unseen, the things that you ain't dealing with. The moment I realized that shit, it changed everything. When I realized that my world was built off of my trauma, and I really sat there with that, my trauma, the things that I didn't deal with, and I just kept reiterating those things into my space. When I really understood that, because I broke that down in the podcast this week, that shit changed everything. The way that I talked to people, the way that I dealt with individuals. There was no more wondering anymore. The more that I dealt with it, there was no more wondering. That shit changed everything. Mm, 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 mm. But yeah, I'm gonna do this collective reading real quick. Y'all know how to get in contact with me. Inbox me. Inbox me. Right before the lecture, I had like a gang of people say they're ready for they. I was excited as shit because the mother was like, yeah, it's time. I don't know why I wrote. I don't know why. I don't know why I read that as. I don't know why I read that as snorting. I don't know why I read that as snorting for a second. You know my situation. I'm having trouble sorting through everything. I just feel stuck as fuck. Well, as we talked about with your, where are you stuck at exactly? Where do you can pinpoint a point where you feel stuck right now? I saw your picture earlier with the pebble thing. I'm gonna give you this pebble, and that's how much you know about me. He hopefully gave you a boulder. So where can you pinpoint exactly where you're stuck at? Is it a feeling? Is it something that you're not getting? Something you're not receiving? Where do you feel stuck at exactly? Give me that. I'm asking the question because if I pull the card's gonna give me the direction to it. Let's go to the cards. Mm, 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 mm. Oh yeah, sis, you checked your schedule yet? The foolish man represents the path of that ether. So you got so you got the Costa Rican guy, then you got this other guy. So like the other guy is, so which one are you stuck with? That's my, like, which one are you stuck with? The guy with the guy that's in the Costa Rica guy, or are you stuck with the drama, the Pebble guy? Because I'm seeing the path. Foolish man represents standing on that path. The Knight of Wands represents the moving forward on one of those paths, so I can see where you're stuck. The Princess of Swords represents the possibility of the new path. King of Wands represents the drama of the other path. And that's what is being brought up right now. Well, as I told you, that the Costa Rica guy is your karmic, is your the Costa Rica guy is the karmic he's your karmic relationship guy. So those dramas that we talked about, the things that are coming up are those aspects of those dramas that we talked about in your last reading. So the the new guy or the other guy, while avoiding the Costa Rica guy, he possibly is simply a like He's more of a band-aid. So that's probably why you're feeling stuck. Like, what is the new guy bringing that the drama guy isn't bringing? That would be a question that you would need to ask to bring yourself and why you're feeling that stuckness. Because you're in between two paths right now. That Two of Swords represents you being between those two paths. There's two paths that you're stuck in between. You know, one path is the karmic relationship. So there's lessons to be learned. If you master those lessons and you move forward, the new guy can be a distraction or will reflect those same points. As I'm flipping through my shit. Oh yeah, if you're just now coming back into the room, we're doing question and answers. Oh, if they fall, pick them up. Those are the ones we gonna use. Moving forward. Ooh. Rashida, the chariot represents moving forward. The chariot represents moving forward. The Queen of Wands illustrates the decision to move forward. The Queen of Cups represents peace, 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 peace. That's what I'm seeing now. Remember how I told you? Remember what I told you about the Costa Rica guy? In sense, is a karmic relationship. He's brought everything to the surface that you needed to deal with. So this other guy coming into the space that you thought was based on avoidance, he came in as that moving forward. He came in as that decision process of nurturing the help that you need, of what the things that you have, the things that have come to the surface at this point in time, with the Costa Rica guy and knowing your story, the drama and everything coming through, all of those aspects. It's time for you to he's in alignment with nurturing you in that help that you need. Addressing how to feel yourself. Remember, we're talking about your inner child. Now it's time to nurture your inner child, which is going into that Knight of Cups moving forward. So it's time to start nurturing the inner child. So what the karmic relationship was supposed to give you was the lessons in embracing and learning. This new person that's in your space, they're going to provide that nurturing and that balance, which is in that justice. See that justice and that balance, that yin and yang? That darkness that's coming to the surface with the old aspect, the new aspect is going to show you how to cultivate that aspect. That reading was dedicated directly to you, into you, into you. It's time for you to move forward. New guy, move forward with I'm giving you the suggestion to move forward with. But before you move fully forward with him, make sure that you address the ties, the karmic ties, and that lessons. Address the, okay, cool, it's time for me to move forward. Because just like when we had the conversation before, when I told you it discussed there was a karmic relationship, he represented the aspects of your old self, the old way you used to deal with things, and that's all he's going to be. He's only going to be the cycle of that. He's going to use those same aspects over and over and over again, the same way that you got brought in. Because you remember we had that conversation before, and like he was irate, the disrespect was already there. Now you're at a point where it's like, okay, cool, now it's time for me to move forward. Everything's lining you up to move forward now. It does you no justice to stay in that position. The only reason that you're going to stay in that position is if you haven't learned anything. I know how your energy operates. I know how you are with the energy of your operation in that aspect. You're in a new space with yourself. From the last conversation we had with yourself, when we did the meditation and you was enjoying that aspect of that energy and going into that flow, now it's time to give yourself that gift. One of the biggest things you have problem with yourself is not giving yourself the actual gift. You're not used to giving yourself the gift. Remember your lesson plan. You're not used to giving yourself the praise of the praise. You're used to giving everybody. You're used to giving everybody praise for the lessons that they learned. This is a sign that it's time for you to give yourself praise for the lesson that you learned. He is a representation of the gift to the lessons that you have learned. Embrace that shit. The old way is not going to work anymore. Also, as well. Hello, Andrea Belton. Welcome to our circle. We're in the middle of the question and answer reading period. I just did that reading for Rashida. Y'all know how we do readings at this point. Yeah. I told you this. Remember I told you before, like, the more that you're sitting in your inner child seat and you start dealing with those aspects, when you're facing them, it's going to naturally, the karmic relationships only last as long as the emotions that we are avoiding. That's as long. A karmic relationship, let everybody know this, a karmic relationship only lasts as long as the emotions that we're avoiding while we're inside of that space. So if you're avoiding you're avoiding dealing with emotion, you're avoiding dealing with the things that are coming up, it'll play itself out. That physical relationship will end, but it will repeat in another relationship. If you're sitting there and you're learning, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, it's time for me to be open. I'm learning in Rashida's case, is learning her aspects of her sitting in her feminine seat. It allowed her to move fast. It allowed that shit to go faster for herself. When you stuck in the seat that you went into it with, you're used to manipulating, you're used to possessing, you're used to holding on, those aspects, then you're going to get stuck in that cycle. So the example for Rashida, I've been advising Rashida for like the last few months. Started last year, and now she's in her cycle where it's like now she's coming in to learn her lessons. That's your point of your work. You're learning these lessons so you can now move forward. It's going to happen fast. It's divine timing. There's no more sense of, oh my God, because we got stuck in this emotional aspects of like, I got to sit here for a long time and deal with the grief. Your grieving is going to change. Yeah. What was I doing? But yes, I'm going to do, yeah. If you still in, Q&A, questions. If you're drawn, you want a reading, donation-based readings, get some clarity before we end our stuff out. Any questions? You just coming in? You want to go back and do the playback? Do the playback. But yeah, anything that's on your mind, bring it to the surface. Let's have a conversation. That's what Papa Lucy is here for. I do not. Yeah. Actually, that was good. Like, you know what you've been through. We know, like, we've had to build on what you've been through. Yeah, like, you don't want to sit there in that space. As I've said before, when the emotional aspect is really, really high and it's like keeps repeating itself, that's when you know it's your time to move. That's when you know the cycle's over. That's when you know that's the best way. Your intuition is gonna be like, this shit keep happening every other day. Maybe it's time for me to leave this space. When you start seeing things stuck in time loops, behavioral time loops that we've been getting into the last couple of weeks, it's time to leave that space. It's time for me to step the fuck away. Don't stay where your energy's not going to be in that space anymore. Ooh. Hello, Andrea. Let's give you a nice little. Let's see what the call tells for you. Appreciate y'all for stomping through. Do a nice little read it for Andrea real quick. Everything comes in time. Everything comes divine. I love doing readers during this time because it helps me lock in the energy, you know. All right. One more hit. Cool. We got it like that. Do one more thing. I'm being told to do it one more time. Oh, that was the one that needed to come out because it bent. The way it bent. I like the way it bent. That means it's time to come out. Ooh, the sun. First card is the sun. Represents soul purpose. Represents soul purpose. Represents the wholeness. Represents the new purpose. Represents the new light. Represents the new that new horizon. That new rising. No problem. No problems. Ooh, the sun. Next card is fortitude. So in that new light, that new soul purpose, that new soul lesson, that new rising, you rising into that new space, it's going to be bringing you that new aspects of that reflection of your strength, your fortitude, standing on your ground. You've been working on a lot of things as of late. That's what it means. Whenever that sun come up, that illustrates that you've been working in your soul purpose. So that strength is now that strength is to be tested, or that strength is to be maximized in that space. Ace of Swords represents the opportunity to use that new strength. The Ace of Swords represents the ability to use that new strength to tap into that newfound power. It's time for you to step into that. It's time for you to step fully into that light, that new space for yourself. You've been doing a lot of work. This is that confirmation for any work that you've been doing. It's the opportunity to move forward with it. That next plan, that next move, that next step that you're trying to stop into. Feel real powerful with that one right there. Feeling that power coming through on that real powerful right there. That Knight of Wands, that's another indicator of that confirmation for moving forward. Another confirmation for that moving forward with that energy, with that soul, with that purpose, with your works. That decision that you've been trying to make. You wonder if it's gonna make you or break you. Nah, it ain't gonna. It's not gonna break. It's only gonna break the things that are not. It's only gonna break the things that are no longer beneficial for you on that pathway. Wheel of Fortune. This represents the end of that cycle. You've been circling around. You've been going into that space. Now it's time for you to turn your fortunes are now moving forward. That's that new, that you're in this force. You've been feeling that force for that while now of that moving forward, making that decision, going into that space, making that stand, taking that stance. It's time to take that chance. It's time to take that chance. It's time to take that. I can't snap. It's time to take that chance. It's time to make that move for yourself. We're going to pull one more card on that. That Magician. Best card to end that up on. It's time to move forward. That power is there. You've been cultivating it for a while. You've been doing that. You've been doing your thing for a while. Claim all that. That's you. That's you. So mote it be. Your strength is in that space. Everything's moving forward. It's time for you to hit that. It's time for you to make that dance. The Magician also represents you've been behind the scenes a lot. It also represents you've been behind the scenes a lot. Now it's time for you to step forward and make that. Now it's time for you to step forward and be like, you know what? This is what I need to be doing. Now it's time for you to take the forefront. The Sun represents your sole purpose. And now it's time for you to move forward. And now it's time for you to step up front. You've been playing in the background for a little while now. As I'm seeing, you've been playing in the background for a little while. Been playing in the background, making sure everything was right, making sure the T's and the I's was all crossed. Now it's time for you to step forward. Let that shit shine. Let that shit go to the front. No problem. Claim it. Now you want to ask anybody else? How can I differentiate my emotions from the emotions of others? Let me think. How do you differentiate your emotions from the emotions of others? The best way to differentiate your emotions from the emotions of others that you bring into that space is when you're inside of a space, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, how well do you know your emotions? That's the first question that you would ask yourself. How well do you know your emotions? How well do you know your triggers? How well do you know what triggers you? How well do you know those aspects of you? I got you. And hit it with that gambit. Before I finish Dawson's thing, this is going to be hilarious. Card off the top. Darth, it's time for that death. It's time for that transition. It's time for that step forward. It's time to address everything that needs to fall away. It's time to accept that kiss. That's what that scorpion's sitting up there in the corner for. That's what that scorpion's up here for. Represents that kiss of that death. In your life right now, it's gonna be a shift. There's a shift coming to you. You got to accept you won't have to accept the full embrace of the transition that is coming before you. Yep, you knew it. You knew it was coming. You've been preparing for it the entire time. What are we gonna get to? Master death. It's time for you to master it. But differentiating your emotions, the best way to differentiate your emotions is first, it's an internal narrative to you. So you have to understand your triggers, what triggers you, what bothers you, what's triggering you, what's bothering you when you go into a space. So you got to understand, you got to understand your emotions first, where your emotions are at, where you're standing at in your life at this point in time. That way, as you more understand your emotions, this eternal aspect of your emotions. I don't know if you're familiar with that shadow work. Shadow work is the key of understanding these emotions. That way, when you go into a space, you understand if somebody's projecting. You understand, now you differentiate between if they're projecting inside of a certain space, they're acting a certain way inside of that certain space. If you're bothered by it, if they're bothered by your triggers and aspects of that nature. So the key to understand the differentiation between emotions is first understanding your emotions. Until you understand your emotions, yes, I'm still watching because we still building. Until you understand your emotions, you'll never have a clear line to differentiate between others' emotions. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do a pull real quick. The best way for me to break that down, Dawson, give me a scenario. Give me a scenario if you want to share with the class. We all fam here. Give me a scenario so we can break down the situation so we can give you a nice example of different, so I can give you that differentiation or learn the discernment between emotions. Be right back. Ooh. 3 heads are better than 1. But yeah, that's one of the that's the basis of you understanding your emotions. You have to be able to understand your emotions, your triggers, where you're at with your emotions. If there's any dead weight with your emotions, anything that's triggering them, remember it's always going to be their reflection. So when you go into a space, for an example, in that example of that space, when you go into a space, everything that they're going to be doing is going to be this reflective point to you. So to understand the basic senses of that is how is it triggering you? How is it bothering you? How are you feeling whenever somebody's emotions are inside of that space with you? Because everything's going to be based on understanding for you. Because once you master your emotions and understanding your emotions, your triggers, your shadows you got to deal with, on the other end, you'll be able to then understand if they're projecting on you. Give you an example. For me, I had a lot of acceptance wounds. I had a lot of acceptance and rejection wounds. I had a lot of passive aggressive natures. So when I went into spaces, naturally would come up into spaces, they would be the reflected aspect. So they'd be aggressively passive and trying to make me feel shit, trying to make me say certain things inside of a certain space. At a point in time, I was like, I don't want to feel this shit. I don't want to feel anything. Fuck it. So once I dealt with those aspects, when I go into a space, now if somebody's coming from, let's say if they're coming from the aspect of grief, guilt, or doubt. Let's say if my mother asks me for money, that's always a great example. If somebody in my family asks me for money, the reason that I would give these motherfuckers money is because I had underlying guilt that I was dealing with that I didn't deal with. Once I dealt with my guilt and dealt with the traumas that were connected to my guilt, when I went into the space and somebody would say something to me through the stream of guilt as we've been breaking down through this whole lecture, through the stream of guilt, I now can see that they were projecting their guilt onto me. So it'd be something similar conversation, as opposed to they'd be like, man, I just lost my job. I just lost my job and it's been hard at the house. In reality, since I dealt with my aspects, I now can have a conversation with them actively like, this is like your third job in like 6 months. Why you keep losing your job? Why can't you seem to keep a job? Man. And then now, since I opened up the space based on offense, they're not going to be defensive. Instead of me saying, this is how you know if this is a catalyst, if they're triggering you. Man, you always losing your job and all this shit. I can't keep giving you money. Because now they're going to be in defense. That's how you look. That's how you know when y'all emotions are y'all are on the same emotional channel. If I go into the conversation now, like, yo, like, what happened? What's up? Give me the story. Let me know the background. Now I'm triggering them to now they're in offense. They're not in a defensive state. They can't use an emotional channel. They can't use emotional trap. I can't get trapped in an emotional trap. They tell their story. Now I'm able to differentiate that they're going to try to always use guilt they're always going to try to use this emotion against me. Until I've dealt with that aspect, it's always going to be that same cycle that they can keep using this guilt against me. My people can keep asking me for money. People can keep trying to make me feel guilty about not doing something, guilty for my no's. It's all based in, do I feel guilty for saying no? Is my guilt, am I avoiding my guilt of saying no? Because you'll know if you're avoiding your guilt in saying no, you'll know if it's based on avoidance, because the moment that you say no to them, you go somewhere else to release that money. You'll go somewhere else to go release it off somewhere. So use an example. Somebody can sit there and say no. You'll say no to somebody you ain't got the money, but then later on you go spend the money on something else to go suppress that guilt. But when I'm in a space and I actually say no, I actually can be like, no, I don't have it because I'm saving for this, or I'm doing, it don't matter what you're doing it for. You actually can be like, nah, I ain't got it on me. And you can actually tell them, like, the last time that I let you borrow this money, it took this long for you to do this, this, and this. I can't give it to you. Then people are only going to extend based on their level of their emotional literacy. So if they get upset, they get mad, even if they act passive aggressive, that's a good way to understand that's when you start being able to differentiate when people are projecting and when you're actually feeding the space. But the first key, as I said earlier, is you got to know where your emotions are at. Until you know where your emotional literacy at, your emotional levels at, you're really not going to be able to differentiate nobody's emotions. You're really not going to be able to assess anybody else, because first you got to assess yourself. That's why I said you got to build a scenario so we can build on that aspect. Ooh. Hope Dawson's in, and I hope they answer this question. Anybody else in need of a resonating one, a quick reading? If you're interested within setting up that shadow work consultation, you can hit me in my inbox at Rod Carlo Nijas. Hit me on my DM in Instagram at Papa_Lucy666. And you can hit let me put the number in there. You also can bang the line. Do 910. New number alert. 240 3999. I think that's the number so new. I don't even remember. Yep. 240 3999. Shadow work consultation. You don't know what shadow work is. Shadow work is the process of integrating with your shadow and dealing with the rejected aspects of yourself. Understanding and no longer disconnecting from your emotions. Give you a little quick run over. No longer running from your emotions or running from the traumas that help build the catalyst that keep you in the lower states of being. Shadow work is a very in-depth process and is an important process in your spiritual works. Without shadow work, you can't integrate to the truest aspects of your soul. You can't achieve peace. You can't achieve love. You can't achieve the higher aspects and the higher frequencies of being. It's tapping into your powers. Yeah, you can tap into make this perfectly clear. You can tap into your powers without doing shadow work, but you cannot maximize your powers without doing your shadow work. Most important part. But yes. Hit the number. Hit me up in the inbox. Hit me up in the DM so we can get that set up. You have a questions, hit me up. You want to do a further build and get deeper into yourself? You ready to do that work? Hit me up. If you're not ready, you ain't going to like what's going to come out. You got to be ready for this. You got to be, I'm ready. You got to truly be ready with the path of your heart to get ready to get to this space. I desire you to be the best. I want you to be the best. You're not going to build anything through the trauma. You can build everything you want through the traumatic space where you at right now, but you will not be able to, you're not radiating on the frequency of what you're trying to get to. You want that love, you got to radiate from that level first. You want true love, you want true abundance, you want true prosperity, you want those true you desire to be in alignment with the truer aspects of yourself. You got to be on a higher level. You got to be in that higher aspect of yourself. Until then, that longing, that wanting, that needing is being fed from a trauma. Until we deal with what we're longing for, what we're needing, these aspects that we keep in the unseen, those things will become the urges that keep us in the illusion. I desire you to be the best. I appreciate y'all stopping through. Share. If you ain't shared, new subscribers, subscribe, share. It's time to do that work. Some of y'all is already in alignment to do your work. Some of y'all is still avoiding your work, but it's time to do that work. You only got one or two choices: evolve or repeat. I love you. We love us. Ashe.